Ladies and gentlemen, fantasypoints.com. I'm Scott Barrett. I'm your host this lovely evening. The NFL season not yet over. Still got the Super Bowl, another week away. The fantasy season ended for most of you week 16. I'm a big DFS guy, so for me, it kind of just ended last week. No one plays the Super Bowl slate. It sucks. And the 2021 fantasy season literally just started maybe 7 days ago, 8 days ago. Best ball drafts are live on FFPC. Dynasty startup drafts year round. Those are happening. Those exist. I'm going to have actual rookie drafts well before the NFL draft, probably weeks, maybe just a month away. So exciting times. There really is no off season for fantasy analysts because things like best ball and dynasty leagues exist. And right now I'm back to work. I have a best ball article dropping tomorrow. We just finalized our best ball ranks. And then I'm going to have a big best ball Bible primer strategy guide coming out. It's going to be massive, but it's really all you need to know to play best ball and profit massively. Multiple seasons, I've drafted over 100 teams. I talked to Mike Beers, one of my best friends, Aaron H., the legend. Real one knows. If you don't, you don't, and you're missing out. But really think I'm that best ball is a specialty for me, and I'm excited to put this content out. And a big cheat code for profiting in best ball is hitting on the right rookies, because you see this time and time again. I was drafting Kareem Hunt in round 18 in January, February, March, and then he gets drafted by the Chiefs. His ADP skyrockets to the 6th round, 7th round. And then Spencer Ware got injured, and he jumps even more to the 3rd round, the 2nd round. But I just get a windfall of profits because I was on Kareem Hunt early on. Brandon Ayuk was one of those guys, 18th round last year, drafting in January, February. So rookies are key to best ball, and they're key to my project immediately after best ball, which is when I run my prospect model. I don't think I'm the best mathematical model guy. I've never said that, but I do think I have the access to the best data, the biggest treasure trove of data going back multiple seasons. I've spent so much time with these numbers, this data, to know what's important, what's valuable, what's not. So I feel amazing about my model, and that's all dynasty. That's all rookie draft. But right now in this, where we are right now, I'm so far behind on rookie prospects. I have to talk to all my PFF buddies. I have to talk to Wes, Danny Kelly, other big minds in this industry. I have to watch the tape. I have to do my models. I have to, hear what Greg Cassell's saying. I have to, all that stuff. Right now, all I have is, step one, haven't even watched the tape, haven't even, started my model. All I've done is I've collected a list of like the top, rankings from the big name, talking heads, their mock drafts, the Danny Kellys of the world, the Mike Renners of the world, Daniel Jeremiah, Steve Palazzolo, Dane Brugler, Mel Kiper. And I just take that and spit it out as consensus expert rankings. And that's my starting point with where I have these rookies and where I'm taking them in best ball drafts that, again, are happening today. They're happening tomorrow. I'm in some best ball drafts. This is just like a long monologue. It's not just me with you. Like I said, I'm way behind on research, which is why I bought in the big guns. We got RayGQue. If you don't know RayGQue on Twitter, you are missing out. This is the #1 Devy guy. Super entertaining account, sharp guy, not afraid to give out the bold takes, not afraid to die in a hill if he needs to die in a hill. And we got my guy, Wes Huber, who's just a week away from starting a full-time job here at fantasypoints.com, being our, dynasty czar, our Devy czar. What did he do at PFF for a number of years? He was locked in a basement, grinding tape, just telling you, who's the highest graded running back in the Power Five, who's the smoothest route runner in the Big Ten, breaking down college tape. So this guy is, helped with the PFF draft guide. I think you're a Bolitnikov voter. Is that true as well, Wes?
That's right. I also do the long snapper award.
Damn. So how's that for credentials? So we got the goods today. I'm excited. Ray, how are you doing? It's such a pleasure to have you on.
Scott, I appreciate you, man. Glad to be here, man. Big fan of yours. So to be here talking with you, man, you are one of the GOATs in the industry, man. I know you may not think it, or you probably do. You probably do know it, man. But it feels good to be here to talk with y'all tonight. I'm actually watching my AMC stock, so I'm hoping while we're on this show, AMC skyrockets tonight. So I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited about this.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the shout out as the GOAT. This feels like, Super Bowl, like old GOAT and the young GOAT, RayGQue, Pat Mahomes over here. Before we dig into what I want to dig in, and by the way, this is just me being selfish. I got two of the best guys on. I want help with my best ball rankings. I want help with my rookie ranks, which are going to come out in probably just 2 weeks or so. So this is like very selfish moment for me. But I got to talk to my guy, Ray, about Jalen Reagor, because, I was on the Jalen Reagor hype train, and it's, who do we blame? Do we blame Doug Peterson? Do we blame Carson Wentz? For me, the big thing was Howie Roseman drafted Reagor over Jefferson, and his big thing was we got him because he could separate outside. We didn't think Justin Jefferson can separate outside. And a ton of big name guys in the industry were like, yeah, he's amazing, but the question is, can he separate outside? Minnesota, by the way, ran 12 personnel at one of the highest rates in the league, slot wide receiver on the field, less than anyone else. And so the missing variable there was, can he separate outside? And oh boy, can he separate outside? And, it makes sense then in hindsight, Rick Spielman laughing his ass off when Howie Roseman took Jalen Reagor. But I still believe in Reagor. I'm still excited about Reagor. Tell me your thoughts, because I think we both, I think consensus, we had him wide receiver 1, and I think you had him wide receiver 1.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I don't want to make excuses, right? Like he didn't deliver, and I really think what killed that pick more than anything else was the fact that right after he gets drafted, then it's Justin Jefferson, right? Like it was directly after the Jalen pick. Now, here's the thing. Leading up all through the modified training camp, he was balling out. Like everybody was like, this dude is looking legit. Breaks his arm chasing down a Carson Wentz interception in practice or whatever happens, man. But the first game of the season versus Washington, he goes out there and catches a 55-yard bomb from Carson Wentz in game 1, and it's looking like it's wheels up. We're excited. But, who from the Philadelphia Eagles played well last year? Ertz, nothing. Goddard had a couple of touchdowns. Boobie Miles had a couple of games here and there, but overall, the whole situation was terrible. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely still have confidence and faith that he can turn it around, right? I'm one of the people who, to a certain degree, I'm willing to give majority of these rookies a pass for this season, like majority of them. Like the ones that excelled and played well, hell yeah, like those dudes are studs, right? The Justin Jeffersons of the world, JT, et cetera, et cetera. But for most of these guys, I'm willing to give them a little bit of grace because it was a season unlike no other. It was an off season like no other, no rookie mini camp, no OTAs, modified training camp. So let's see, right? But if I'm being objective, Scott, I think that, and it's so crazy that Jefferson, Reagor, who's in the slot, who's outside, I think they had it like Reagor should have been in the slot, right? They got him outside where he thrived inside. And he played outside at TCU as well, but put him inside. So hopefully he turns into, I still think he's probably more of a high-end wide receiver 2 than a top 5 dynasty wide receiver like Justin Jefferson. But I'm not closing the door on him. Not yet. Not after one season after this. But yeah, man, I had him real high. I had him at wide receiver 2 overall. He hit the numbers. He hit the analytical numbers. He tested like a phenomenal athlete. Just didn't work out, man. Can't hit them all.
Yeah, and you know, again, we can be very forgiving of Rieger, the injuries, all that stuff adding up, and it's also like Carson Wentz completely fell off the map. Then you replace him with, you know, I love Jalen Hurts, but you know, a more mobile type of quarterback, hurting volume type numbers. But yeah, I'd say the jury's not out. Wes, is there anything you want to add on Jalen Rieger or Carson Wentz or the Eagles offense?
Yeah, I think Goddard. I wouldn't just brush off his breakout this year. I think he makes Ertz, a movable piece now, and I was really impressed by him. And also Hurts. I mean, we didn't really expect him to come in and take the league by storm, but I thought he did pretty well with what he had, and just the preparation. Coming in, knowing how bad the Eagles were playing at that offensive line, I thought he did pretty decent, but I pretty much agree with everything else.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, don't get me started on Dallas Goddard, one of my all-time favorite, my guys. But yeah, let's dig in. So what we're gonna do is I compiled the expert draft rankings. So this isn't gonna be straight one-to-one fantasy, but we're gonna just walk it through position by position, basically the top five at each position, and I'll get your thoughts on each player. And let's start with the quarterback position. Trevor Lawrence, I'll just give you my take. So, like, again, I don't really know anything outside of the obvious. This guy is supposed to be the biggest lock since Andrew Luck, who was the biggest lock since Peyton Manning, who was the biggest lock since uh,
John Elway.
John Elway. Yeah,
exactly.
Elway,
Marino. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a sure thing ultra lock. And so, like, I agree with that. I think you're doing a super flex rookie draft. I think he's the clear unanimous 101. I think you do a super flex startup draft. I think he's probably being drafted in round one. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. I think if I hold the 101, I might be looking to sell because I like this class. I think it's deep. I like it to a tier drop at 109 or something. But more importantly, it's just, what have we seen from the fantasy position? It's the era of the Konami code. And Trevor Lawrence might be the surest thing in the world, but he's not a Konami code quarterback in the sense that, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray is. And so, like, I think he's going to be more overvalued, basically. But let's talk about what you see from Trevor Lawrence from a fantasy perspective, and how much are you buying the hype, and do you think like the comparisons to and Andrew Luck are warranted or not? Ray, let me hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective to take, Scott, because I don't think you're wrong. Like, I do think he's going to go. I've seen some early dynasty startup mocks, and I mean, he's right there at QB4, QB5. You know what I'm saying? So he's going sky high. I do think he's that legit. He's that. I've watched him from high school, damn near every game at Clemson, and you just see some of the things that he does, and it's insane. It's ridiculous. And I know a lot of times people look at him and they're like, "Oh, he's sneaky. He's sneaky athletic." There's nothing sneaky about Trevor Lawrence's athleticism. I mean, he's a fantastic athlete, and I think that when people, the masses, when the general public sees just how fast he is, because while he's not a Konami code quarterback, you wouldn't label him as such. He's somebody that I think you can probably pencil in for about 300, 350 rushing yards a season, man. Like, he's pretty damn good extending plays with his legs. And then when he gets outside, you see versus Ohio State last year, I mean, he's pulling off away from first round defenders, right? So he's got speed when he hits the open field. He's got the size, he's got the arm talent, proven winner. And you just saw the moment that he took over for Kelly Bryant in 2018, that offense just got infinitely better than what it was. And then he took them on to win a national championship as a true freshman. So when you're looking at the high school pedigree, what he's been able to accomplish in college, and then again, this season, crazy season for Clemson, crazy season for everybody. He's still to me, he's a sure thing. I don't know if I would draft him that high, just because I'd probably like to grab some value a little bit later, but I think he's a lock to be a legitimate quarterback at the next level.
What about you, Wes? You thinking like Andrew Luck levels of lock? Because in Dynasty, I mean, you get Trevor Lawrence. Ideally, you're getting a guy producing for 20 years compared to Najee Harris, who might return more value in the first 5 years, but then like, how much longer is he going to be a sustainable, producer? Just, running backs die off quicker. It is what it is. So Wes, where are you at on Trevor Lawrence in comparisons to Andrew Luck?
Well, you forgot one guy as far as locks go, and that was Joe Burrow. We definitely need to
Hey.
include him in that list
Mm-hmm.
because to me, Burrow's a better prospect than Trevor Lawrence, just because of
Wow.
his skill set. His ability to read coverages is well beyond Trevor Lawrence's. That much is clear.
What,
And
arm
it's
strength though doesn't Burrow like not really have great deep ball accuracy or deep or arm strength?
well, you can get away with arm strength with a quicker release, and
Mm-hmm.
he does that. Burrow's able to get the ball out. And this isn't a knock on Trevor Lawrence. I actually don't think it's really that fair to compare him to such great quarterbacks. Because I think Lawrence he's still developing. He's quite a bit younger than Burrow as well, and he's a lot bigger than the other guys that'll be drafted around him at quarterback. So yeah, he's definitely not as fast as a Justin Fields or I don't know, maybe Zach Wilson. I know his Nike time wasn't that great, but he seems to have gotten faster during his time at BYU, at least on tape. So he's not as fast as those guys, but he's much bigger. He's 3 inches taller than both. So I think Lawrence is definitely somebody like Ray said, that's going to put up enough numbers on the ground to elevate that floor. And but yeah, to me, I think I'm waiting because I know you're going to love this. I would rather wait a little bit and go after Fields or Wilson, even Trey Lance. I know he's not going to be somebody that everyone's going to love, but I think the top four are pretty safe guys. There's enough
All right. Well,
athleticism to
let's
survive.
not blow the lead here because we'll get into each of those guys in order. And I want to thank Ray for calling me out for saying, Trevor's definitely not a Konami code quarterback. In 2019, he totaled 707 rushing yards. Justin Fields, who is being heralded at least in the vein of a Deshaun Watson type of Konami code quarterback, only had 6 more rushing yards. So, and I think fewer touchdowns, or no, just one additional touchdown. So that was a great point. Underrated Konami code upside there, on top of being this phenomenal arm talent. And when I say arm talent, the guy who jumps to mind to me, who I think is going to be the most polarizing name talked about right now, is Zach Wilson, who is sort of the unanimous QB2, which seems crazy to me because I was on the Zach Wilson hype train super early on when he was like a fringe round 1 guy. I'm like, yo, this guy's awesome. And it seems like everyone wants to move him up to like the top 10 picks, but like they just don't have the balls to do it. And then they just kept moving him up. And now he has supplanted Justin Fields, which seems crazy to me. But at the same time, like arm talent for days, like someone is going to fall in love with this kid. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, someone's going to fall in love with his arm talent. I think elite deep touch in the vein of Russell Wilson is what I see. At this point, a little bit overrated arm strength, but it's there. It's there. Good velocity. The size is a concern. Like he talked about wanting to play with Kyle Shanahan. Like that was like his ideal spot. And like that's been comped many, many times. But just thinking about him, who looks like Justin Bieber, facing Aaron Donald, who looks like a Marvel character twice per year, just is hilarious to me. The kid looks like just like a cute teenage boy, where like Aaron Donald's just gonna like dribble his head off the turf. That scares me. So size is a concern. Durability is a concern. He's dealt with injuries. Strength of schedule is a massive concern, which I'll let you guys get into. Offensive line, a concern, but I mean, he's fun to watch. He makes a lot of wow plays. It wouldn't shock me if he's QB2. I've kind of just given up on quarterback analysis. I'll just trust Wes. I'll trust Greg Cassell. It's out of my depth. I'm good at the other positions. Quarterback's just over my head. So if you said Zach Wilson QB2, that's fine. I just can't imagine Zach Wilson QB2 from a fantasy perspective, even if he goes QB2 in the draft, just because of the Konami type things we talked about. Wes, give me your unadulterated thoughts on Zach Wilson.
Well, I agree with you. I think he's got plenty of arm talent. I do not see the reason that he should be moved ahead of Justin Fields. It's just too much.
Daniel I think Jeremiah just released 2 days ago. Justin Fields 4, Zach Wilson 2. Mel Kiper and Todd McShay on their podcast said Justin Fields should stay another year at Ohio State, which is like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, I don't know what it is, but like the talking heads, we'll probably get to it in a little bit, but like the talking heads have just like totally disowned Justin Fields. But yeah, okay, let's get back to Zach.
So for Zach though, I mean, he's got some holes in his game. Against cover 1, 55%, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's going to face man coverage around a third of snaps. That for me, that's not a QB2 type outlook. I need better than that. Justin Fields, 60%, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against man coverage. And I am going even further. Their numbers are pretty identical the rest of the way, except for Fields has a 10-2 touchdown to interception ratio against cover 3, which you'll see about a third of snaps, whereas Wilson's 5-3. I think really we're splitting hairs though, because I think they're both going to do well in this league. But moving Fields to 4 it's preposterous.
All right. Before we move to hear Ray's thoughts, I have one insane Zach Wilson stat. So his deep ball accuracy is a somewhat volatile stat, but like to this degree is just mind blowing. So on 30+ yard throws, he had an 84% adjusted completion percentage on 25 passes. 84%. That's like Alex Smith throwing 3 yards levels of accuracy. So adjusted completion percentage is completions plus drops divided by passes. Patrick Mahomes, meanwhile, on his first 25 passes of 30+ yards, 40% adjusted completion percentage. And that's like above average. No one came close to Zach Wilson. So just like his deep touch was just mind blowing to me. But Ray, I heard you think you'd have Mac Jones ahead of Zach Wilson. Is a take I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a rumor.
It's 100% true. It's 100% true. And I'm on the I'm comfortable on that island. I'm not one that dives into. I was talking to my boy Crocker from the Crocker Report. Man, we both played defensive back in college, so we've kind of bonded over that on Twitter. And listen,
the toughest position in football.
I watch. Listen, all my experience comes from my takes. I've started to incorporate some analytical data in my stuff because it works, man. Some of this stuff is really good. But majority, 80% of my takes come from the lens of someone who played the game, and that's how I watch it. And I watch him, and I'm not going to dismiss the fact that he played at BYU versus San Diego State versus some of these teams that don't want to press, that are scared of his receivers, Zach Maline or whatever his name is. They're playing off coverage. His toughest competition
was supposed to be his grandson.
Yeah, I'm not. I meant that stuff matters. I still think he's a first round talent, of course. So he's going to be a first round pick, a high first round pick. But I just have more questions than answers. I think a lot of people, and listen, people come out of nowhere, right? Joe Burrow, the end of his 2018 season, we saw a little something out of him, and then he took the world by storm in 2019. Nobody was talking about Zach Wilson coming to the season. He blows up, can't knock his completion percentage, throwing the ball downfield, yards per pass attempt. He's pushing it downfield. He's playing well. But I don't see this QB2 type elite upside for him. In fantasy, I think he's going to be a fine quarterback in the NFL, but I'm not seeing what everybody else does. And I've watched every snap, all 22 angle. I'm watching it all. And he makes some great throws, but hell, I can show you Chris Relf that played at Mississippi State years ago. He made some great throws from time to time too. And I'm not comparing Zach Wilson to some lesser player, but to put him over Justin Fields is asinine in my opinion. What people are knocking Fields because he had a bad game versus Indiana or Northwestern, whatever the case may be. That's just, I think sometimes we get fatigued. I think sometimes we hear about these names for so long. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, whomever it is, right? As
Right.
soon as some hot wave comes along that's playing well, now we want to propel them to this pedestal, and I think that's what happens sometimes. And I like Zach Wilson, but it's not my QB2 or my QB3, and I'm fine with that. Listen,
Mhm.
the thing that I learned last year, I don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. I'm not finna conform to group think. I'm not gonna do that. That's what I say. I'm gonna back it up with the film and things that I see. And if I'm right, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I ain't got no problem saying I'm wrong. But he ain't my QB2, man.
Well,
Can I
love to
come in
hear.
with a
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
support for
yeah,
Wilson?
yeah.
And this isn't to knock. I mean, you played college ball, and you definitely lots of props for that. And you've got a perspective of the game from the inside that I'll never have. And also you're exactly right. He played at BYU. The competition was certainly nowhere near what Mac Jones, Fields, or Lawrence faced. We could say the same for Trey Lance. But if we look a little further back, Wilson did play for a top high school, played for a top 200 ranked Corner Canyon High School in Utah. And the thing about a quarterback being ranked in the top 10, you'll never see a pocket passer that's completely immobile drafted in the top 10. And that's why Zach Wilson is in the conversation, is because at the Nike Invitational, he blew it up. He was over 100 with his Spark score. He's a multi-dimensional athlete, somebody that can play today's NFL, what everyone is hoping to achieve, and can do so with an arm, with some decent arm talent. Now, if you compare Wilson's arm talent to Mac Jones, no way, no way. It's not the same. Mac Jones is the better passing quarterback between the two, but
What?
Jones doesn't have that athleticism.
Agreed.
I I'm still in support of Jones in the first round. Don't get me wrong. I still think
Right,
he
right.
goes first round. I just don't think he's going to go in the top 10 because of that lack of athleticism. But I think he has the right mindset as well. He's that guy that if he doesn't win a game, he's gonna beat himself up until he gets back out on the field. I love the way he plays. He just beat my Buckeyes, but I've got a healthy respect for anyone who plays good football. And Mac Jones really impressed me in that game. He was
West,
phenomenal.
don't disagree. Love everything you said. 100% on board with everything you said. And I do think that the pocket mobility and Zach Wilson's ability to move around right outside the pocket. uh, If you're asking me, and this is why it's so damn hard. Like I'm being vulnerable here. I'm being transparent. This is why it's hard, right?
Mhm.
Because in fantasy, Mac Jones is a statute. He's going to give you a 0 in the rushing game, probably a negative in the rushing game, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to take that quarterback, I guess the question one must ask themselves is he a 5,000-yard passer per season? I can't, without seeing where he lands and all of that, I can't confidently say that. For me, I think Zach Wilson has probably one of the highest ceilings. Mac Jones, if you're talking about a safe QB2 in Superflex, your second quarterback in a 2 QB league, I think Mac Jones gives you that with some upside, but I do not believe Mac Jones has the upside of a Zach Wilson, a Trey Lance, a Justin Fields, or a Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
100%.
Agreed.
Yeah, I will just say I don't think Zach Wilson came out of nowhere. His freshman year, he graded out just as highly as Joe Burrow's junior season, and then he dealt with injuries, a myriad of injuries, his sophomore season. Also, yes, good mobility in the pocket. He could also uh, different arm angles in the way that a Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers can do. That's very exciting. But at the same time, like Spark score is meaningless for me, especially within the context of the fact that he's 6'3", 209. That's again, that scares me. But yeah, before
Well,
we
I
get to
don't think
Mag,
it's something that we want to use as, okay, he got a good Spark score, he's a good player, but it's something that we want to consider all the facts. And he did
right,
show that he's an athletic quarterback, which is something we've seen for quarterbacks drafted in the top 10.
Okay. So Justin Fields, I think I agree where it's just like the thing, film heads do, they want more views, they want more excitement. Here's the clear established guy. He's been awesome forever. You're going to overreact to one game and then underreact to like another amazing game where he battled through like broken ribs. I don't get it. The one knock I keep hearing is like he just locks onto a first read and then you take the first read away from him. He can't progress to the other reads. Again, I'm not good at quarterbacks. That's why I'm leaning heavy on you guys. So how important is that? Is that a thing? Like, how valuable would his mobility be for fantasy? How would it compare to a Trey Lance's mobility? I've heard it compared as like Deshaun Watson versus Josh Allen. I don't really know. But this is your QB2, and I think this is Ray's QB2. So why don't you guys tell me why you love Justin Fields so much, why Daniel Jeremiah at QB4 is wrong, and everyone else at QB3 is also wrong.
Yeah, I don't think we need to argue with Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper. I think the tape speaks for itself, and I think NFL teams, they're not going to look at these analysts and say, oh, this guy has him ranked there. So they're doing their own research. And Fields, I mean, he runs a sub 4.5 40. I mean, but he's not a guy that over runs away from a clean pocket. He's a guy that is looking to get the ball downfield, and his numbers are just phenomenal, off the charts. Over 60% against every coverage. He did throw 6 interceptions against more than 2 defenders deep, but he had 17 touchdowns. So that helps. Whereas, you look at Trevor Lawrence against cover 3, he threw 4 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He against cover 1, he had a 54% completion percentage. Not saying, but I think Lawrence, he's still young. It just these guys have so much talent that there's so many surrounding factors. But as far as Fields goes, his arm strength is with anybody, is up there with anybody's. His legs, he can outrun guys. I mean, he's not as fast as a Michael Vick, but he's not that far behind.
What did you say his 40 time was?
It's sub 4.5. He ran 4.51 at the Nike Invitational, but
that's pretty crazy. Just to put that in perspective, 4.4. Vince Young 4.48, Colin Kaepernick 4.53, Cam Newton 4.56.
Yeah, and if I were to comp somebody for Justin Fields, it'd be Cam Newton when he played at Auburn, not the current version, the good version.
Yep.
And I don't want to sound like I'm a homer, because you'll never hear me tout a player from Ohio State that I don't buy into. Yeah, like Cardale Jones or JT Barrett. Never said a word about him. Of course, I wasn't out here shouting my touts to everyone, but at the same time, I was big on Fields when he was at Georgia, and I'm just as big on him now. I think he's going to do really well, whoever gets him, and I'll try to snap him up wherever I can, because I know he's gonna do the rushing stuff that I love.
Yeah, so I'll say this. So when we talk about these Konami code quarterbacks, right? The thing about Justin Fields is he's a passing quarterback that can run the ball. He's not a run first quarterback that's trying to develop and learn how to throw the ball. I'm not going to dive deep into this one. Fields is phenomenal. He's one of the top high school quarterback prospects of all time. And I'm just going to say this. In the semifinal game versus Clemson, first play of the game, they lose the hammer Trey Sermon. Ohio State loses their top tailback. Justin Fields, they'll probably never admit something happened, right? He gets blasted, bruised ribs, probably broke something, probably. But they won't tell us, right? The fact that he leaves for one play, comes back in, throws a dart to Chris Olave for a touchdown, and then goes on to throw 6 more touchdown passes, rushes for 40 yards in that game. And I think he had 6 incompletions. Probably, and I'm not saying this lightly, one of the best collegiate performances, given the circumstances, given the fact that they had lost to Clemson the year before, coming off of, 2 bad games for Justin Fields standards, to do what he did. That's I can't express to you some things that none of us, I don't care how many numbers we have, how much film we watch, there are some intangibles that cannot be measured in football players. And I can tell you stories off air about players that I know that played with the Josh Gordons of the world in college, that played with some of these other guys that just said, oh, it was only a matter of time before that time bomb blew up. Like, this is what he did in school. That leadership, coming back out there and then delivering high level throws. That moonshot to Chris Olave was elite. Like, I don't care if it's Daniel Jeremiah, Daniel Jones, Daniel Cormier. They're damn wrong with that one. Justin Fields is QB2, man. Stop the madness. And you know what? If you want to make the argument that he's closer to QB1 than he is QB4. I'll just leave it at that. He's closer to quarterback 1 than he is quarterback 4. Stop.
I love that.
Coming out of high school, he was ranked right on with Trevor Lawrence. So completely agree with that.
So I will say one of the dumbest things I think I've heard all offseason echoed repeatedly is, well, he's an Ohio State quarterback and like none of those guys work out. It's like
Joe Burrow was an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
How lazy can you get, right? How lazy can you get? Gee.
Right. How many BYU quarterbacks have, All right.
Ty Detmer. Steve Young.
So Trey Lance, very, very interesting to me. I kind of don't know very much about him, except 2 years ago, his numbers were incredible. He played 1 game this year. I've heard this guy as like a great Konami code quarterback, where I heard him comp to Josh Allen, where it's like, okay, I don't like my take of Josh Allen 2 years ago, which was, okay, because he runs and he's so productive running, he's going to be a QB1 for however many years he's going to be a starter in the league. But I don't know how many years he's going to be a starter in the league. Or is he just awesome? I really don't know, because his numbers, 2 years ago, incredible, like 0 interceptions, 49 passing touchdowns, 1,000+ rushing yards. But I really don't know a ton about this guy. So Wes, why didn't you enlighten me?
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows a ton about this guy. I mean, he's not up there with the top 3. And honestly, I'd be fine with Mac Jones going ahead of Trey Lance, just because we don't know enough about him. And on top of that, the competition was, I mean, we're talking about FCS stuff. He's a guy that can run the ball, and we're going to see plenty of that. I see him more as like a Jalen Hurts kind of guy than somebody up there with the elites. I mean, I don't see him as a top 10, but I'm fine with him being mentioned there because of, he does have some arm strength, and because of his athleticism to work outside the pocket. I think we'll see a lot of read option and RPO stuff with him. I think without that, he's going to get left out to dry. And I wish he would have stayed 1 more year, but it's hard to argue the fact that when somebody starts throwing dollars at you, and just I can understand why you would want to take it. But he's going to be a project. He's not somebody who's going to come out and start. So I guess somebody more like a Jalen Hurts, but a second rounder. But it's the NFL is QB hungry. They're starving for talent, and he didn't do that well at the Nike Invitational, and it's he struggled a little bit against cover 1, 57% completion percentage, but decent against zone. We just don't have enough numbers. We don't have enough reps to really make that clear distinction on whether he should be top 10, top 20, top 30, or second round.
It's a small sample size, but those numbers are just
Yeah.
drool inducing, especially from a fantasy perspective. 42 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1,180 rushing yards. It's North Dakota State, okay, but that is exciting, and I do think he's probably an athlete. I don't know what
No, he is.
He
because
is.
he was recruited as a wide receiver
Yeah.
Yeah.
by many Power Five schools.
And I think you can give him a pass for the one game he played this year. It's like
Oh, of
Ray
course.
said. This was just this year. It's so hard to knock anybody unless they just completely bottomed out. And one game we don't do the single game scouting stuff.
Did you hear the quotes from the UCA defenders? So pretty much they knew that North Dakota State scheduled that one game versus them for Trey Lance to go off on national TV, and they said that for the past they had already, this was their fourth game. I think it was their fourth or fifth game going into North Dakota State. They said they had started prepping for him 3 weeks before that game. So they knew it was coming, and they threw. If you watch the tape, they were running corner blitzes, double safe. They were doing everything in their power to make Trey Lance look bad. Like, you're not about to, and I would take that personal. Y'all schedule us for your one game showcase for Trey Lance. All right, I got something for you. But I do have him ranked very, very high, and it's because of the talent. He's not as polished as I don't think any of the other 4 quarterbacks, but he's the best rushing quarterback in the class. Like, when you watch him run the ball, he's running like Fields and Lawrence are smart runners. Trey Lance is running. He needs to do a better job of protecting himself. He's running with intention. Like, he's trying to punish people. And at 6'4", 230 pounds, he's fast. He's going to run fast. He's got a bazooka attached to his shoulder. For me, when I'm watching the tape, I'm looking at quarterbacks that can make the far hash to sideline throw. If you can put that on a rope from the far hash to the sideline and consistently and accurately, you got some arm strength. That dude has an absolute cannon attached to his shoulder. Now, the level of competition, I just talked about Zach Wilson playing at BYU. This is significantly less than BYU and far less than what Mac Jones faced in the SEC or Fields or Lawrence. So he's the type of quarterback that I just hope that he lands in a spot, let's just say hypothetically Carolina, where he can sit behind a Teddy Bridgewater for a year, hopefully for a year, and learn the NFL game. And then I think that the talent is what you're banking on. You're banking on the arm strength. You're banking on some of the consistent throws that he made, and you're banking on utilizing his legs to win you football games. And I think he can do that. So I did have him lower and ended up moving him up about a week ago. So I really like the talent of Trey Lance.
Yeah, and Ray is a former defensive back. I'm very team defensive back. Toughest position to play in football. Hate wide receivers. Annoying, me first, divas. So team CB. All my favorite players, defensive backs. Trey Lance's father, collegiate defensive back. So he knows how to read defenses. He knows how to put his wide receivers in a favorable spot. A last quarterback we're going to talk to, and we went a little too in depth on the quarterback position probably, but I'm enjoying this. I'm having fun. Is Mac Jones? You guys already brought it up. His big weak spot is he is sort of a statuesque pocket passer. Maybe think like Ben Roethlisberger, Jared Goff, and that's really like not where the NFL is trending towards. It's not where the NFL is going. It kind of limits what you can do offensively. It limits the playbook. So let's talk about the pluses and minuses with Mac Jones and what, having a non-mobile quarterback means for your team. I mean, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning can be successful. Can a Mac Jones be successful? Wes, why don't you take it from the top?
Well, it's going to come down to is can he read NFL blitzes? If he can read the blitz as well as a Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers, then he's not going to have to leave the pocket. And you really can't determine that from college tape. We're going to have to see what happens when he gets to the NFL. I'm all on board. I think for me he's QB5. I've got Lance ahead of him. Just And speaking of Lance, like you said, he's a bruiser. He likes to get dirty. He better stop doing that when he gets to the NFL, or he's gonna be out for a season here and there. So anyway, but as far as Mac Jones, I mean, his arm talent is up there with anybody in the class, and he's got the mindset that we all love. Kind of reminds me a little of Joe Burrow. Just likes to compete, and really hard on himself when he doesn't do things right. And I'm going to cheat a little, and I know you said that's the last guy, but for my QB6, it's Kellen Mond. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. Anything to add on your guy, Mac Jones, who you have ahead of Zach Wilson?
I'll just say this: if Mac Jones wore number 13 and his last name was Tagovailoa and had the season that he had this season, people would be losing their minds. People, it's the whole, like, he doesn't look. You see, we saw the picture with his shirt off. He doesn't move around. He's just kind of a statue. But when you look at all of the advanced analytics for passing, I believe he led the country in yards per pass attempt, past 20 yards. Like, the dude was phenomenal. Like, you couldn't play a more perfect season than what Mac Jones did. It's just the fact that he's Mac Jones. He's just Mac Jones. He wasn't this highly recruited guy. He had to wait behind Hurts. He had to wait behind Tua. And then people want to sit here and say, oh, well, he had Devontae Smith. You mean the same Devontae Smith that people said is going to be a bust because he's not good? He's not a good wide receiver. He's throwing a Slade Bolden and John Mechie. Neither of those guys are going to be first-round picks at the NFL. Tua had Ruggs and Judy and Devonta Smith and Najee Harris and Jalen Waddle and Jaleel Billingsley. Like, you can't have it both ways. It was okay when Tua was doing it. The conversation, and some people, Tua over Burrow, Tua the greatest prospect ever, whatever the case may be. You can't have it that way when he was thrown to those weapons. And then when Mac Jones is deprived of those same individuals and goes out there and puts up better numbers than what Tua did. And he did it in one less game, won a damn natty. Like, it's this thing, man. He's not cool. He's immobile. He can do everything. He's a phenomenal quarterback. And like Wes said, I think he can, and I've got people at the Senior Bowl right now that said it's not even close. He's the best quarterback there. It's evident he's the best quarterback there. If he could read the blitz, he's not going to have to leave the pocket. You're just banking on the guy to throw for 4,000 yards and give you 35 plus touchdowns a season. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback.
I love
Who are the other quarterbacks that are at the Senior Bowl right now? Any of the other four we just mentioned?
Sam Ehlinger, Ian Book, Felipe Franks, Kellen Mond is there. Jamie Newman. Jamie Newman is there. But a bunch of, outside of Mond and probably Jamie Newman, guys that we're probably not going to be talking about.
I've got Jones ahead of Mond. I hope you knew that.
Oh, right. Kyle Trask. Yeah, that's
Trask isn't there though. Trask didn't go. He's not there.
I've got Mond above Trask.
Same here.
Right.
Same.
Okay. Well, good to know. So we just spent, I don't know, 50 minutes on tight end. How much time do you have, Ray?
Infinite.
Beautiful.
Yeah, let's go. Well, let's just do it.
Hey, all right, let's breeze through tight ends then. Tight end, I think, should be an easy one. So from a fantasy perspective, you can look at positional value in a typical 1 QB redraft league. Like, quarterbacks are basically worthless. You could stream by adding and dropping quarterbacks week to week, or until you settle on one seems productive. It's pretty easy to cobble together mid-range QB1 production despite low draft capital, low fantasy draft capital spent on a quarterback. So quarterback is worth a lot less than running back. But within these positions, a Konami code quarterback is worth a lot more than a Tom Brady, who, fantastic statistical season, but, 10 rushing yards are worth 25 passing yards. You just do the math and it's a cheat code. It's easy. Same thing for running backs. As a bell cow running back is worth a lot more than a workhorse running back or a scat back. James White can't really compare to a Christian McCaffrey. Nick Chubb can't compare to a Christian McCaffrey. So bell cow running back is just every down running back involved as a runner and a passer, heavily utilized in the offense. And for a tight end, the same thing is sort of true for Travis Kelce, for Darren Waller, which is to say the wide receiver slash tight end hybrid. Like you look at wide receiver routes run at the tight end position, and like Kelce and Waller at 50%, and then no one else is above 20%. And like George Kittle might be my favorite player in all of football, but he's at a disadvantage because he's so good of a blocker. He's staying in and blocking, and Travis Kelce is going to run maybe 25% more routes per game than a George Kittle, just because, Travis Kelce doesn't waste time blocking. Darren Waller doesn't waste time blocking. Literal, former wide receiver Darren Waller, now tight end. So that is a cheat code at the tight end position. We saw it this year with specifically those two tight ends. And so when I see Kyle Pitts, my hot take is he's in the fucking Hall of Fame. Like, I love this guy. Like, I am putting him in the Hall of Fame. He is just he looks like a top 3 wide receiver in this class at the tight end position. Just an absolute freak of nature, mismatch, cheat code for fantasy. I love him. I could draft him top 3, like easy. Like I could draft him over Jamar Chase, over Devonta Smith in a tight end premium league, easy. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts, because like I know this is a hot take. Ray, where are you at?
I have none. I have nothing. You said it all. He's phenomenal. He's great. If he were listed as a wide receiver, I'd argue top 2, top 3. I don't even think that's an argument. I mean, he's incredible. He's incredible. Route running, inline, and people keep he's a tight end. Like, he's a tight end that just so happens to move and play like a wide receiver. Like, look at what he did. Tight ends are not utilized that way in college. It just doesn't happen. That's not how the college game works. It's built. The college success is predicated on your damn quarterback, running back, and if you got a wide receiver, right? That's just how you don't feature a tight end in college. George Kittle was not featured in college. Rob Gronkowski was fantastic at Arizona, but I mean, what Kyle Pitts did at Florida in 6 games this season, 7 games, is ridiculous. Double teams, triple teams, bracket coverage, safety over top, linebacker shading on the inside, and they can't stop him. He's pulling away from defensive backs. He's a red zone problem, back shoulder fades, 2 feet down on the sidelines. He's right now, as soon as Commissioner Goodell says he's a top 5 dynasty tight end, instantly right there. And you can argue maybe even top 4. He's great. He's a fantastic player.
When I watch him, I get shades of Darren Waller, shades of Travis Kelce, a lot of Jimmy Graham. I think maybe Aaron Hernandez on steroids. My big concern is he just goes to some like dumb fuck offensive coordinator, head coach who doesn't know how to use him, and it just like breaks my heart. But like, imagine him with New England, imagine him with New Orleans. Ray, give me a few like ideal landing spots before I'm worried Wes rains on our parade.
Man, I think, and I don't think he's going to fall this far, but Arizona seems like they wanted to feature the tight end a lot. They kept trying to force Dan Arnold the ball, and that Darnell Daniels guy, that's not going to work. So I think him with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins would be fucking insane. We didn't see Carolina utilize the tight end a lot, but is that because they really didn't have a tight end? I don't know if Matt Rule would actually do that. Is Joe Brady still there as well? Like, I feel like he would utilize a Kyle Pitts type. I'm seeing a lot of Philadelphia talk, but for me, I think Arizona would be the spot that I would love to see him paired and tethered to a, Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And they will not do it. I know they won't do it. They've got to protect their top quarterback investment. But if the Cincinnati Bengals, if Joe Burrow had a tight end and you add him to that Cincinnati offense, that would be fucking awesome. But right now I'm looking at Arizona, but I don't think he's going to fall that far. He's going to get stuck with Dan Campbell in Detroit. Watch.
Oh God.
Some shit like that. Even though they got Hawkinson, somehow Dan Campbell, I need 2 tight ends. We want to run 21 personnel. I need 2 tight ends. So yeah.
All right, Wes, come rain on our parade.
Why do I got to be the bad guy here? I'm not going to rain on your parade.
Oh,
Um,
Wes.
the one thing I will say, going back what you said about Kelsey and Waller, Waller's nowhere close to Kelsey on those out wide routes. He's 25%, 27% compared to over
I just
40
mean
for Kelsey.
usage. Like also like how Evan Ingram was used at Ole Miss, where it's just like
Yeah.
basically wide
He's a
receiver.
wide receiver basically for Ole Miss, yeah. And speaking of Ole Miss, I mean that's where a third of Pitts' touchdowns came, and they just completely decided not to play defense this year. So, but then he came back and he did really well against Kentucky. Kentucky had one of the best secondaries in the SEC. So we're, he definitely proved, to be more than just a player that does really well against the teams he's expected to succeed against. Now, I think the thing with all three of the top three tight ends in the draft this year is just health. I think we just need to worry about guys like Pitts and Jordan going, playing tight end. If he's going to classify, I see Pitts. He reminds me more of a Chase Claypool than a tight end. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't see him blocking that much. He's definitely going to be more of a joker. So, we'll see him
I
in
mean,
this.
that's great. That's you don't get fantasy points per block
No, no, no. I'm just
for
saying,
pancake
we
block.
call
Yeah,
him a tight end, but I
right.
thought like in Devy, I took Claypool before, entering his true freshman season, took him in every Devy league, but I thought he was going to end up as a tight end in the NFL. And, of course he didn't. And he's still doing really well just with that speed. And, Pitts doesn't have Chase Claypool speed. So we'll probably still see him listed as a tight end just, throughout. So yeah, I love Pitts and I think he'll be definitely a, top four pick in Dino for sure.
So I mean, just like speaking to Travis Kelsey, he is the most valuable player over the past 4 seasons by ESPN win rate. ESPN is 10 team PPR, one QB, two running back, two wide receiver, one flex, one tight end. But he has the best average win rate. He's the only player to finish top 20 in win rate in each season. So there is a big value, and you can just look at positional value where it's like, okay, he is outscoring the tight end 5 by what the wide receiver 2 is outscoring the wide receiver 50. So clear value there. No one comes close to Kyle Pitts, but Pat Fryermuth, I don't know if I definitely didn't pronounce that right.
Muth.
Fryermuth.
Muth. Yeah.
Fryermuth.
Yes.
Fryermuth.
Fryermuth. He is sort of consensus round 1. And then after him is Brevin Jordan. After him is Hunter Long. After him is Tony Poljan. So I don't know if you guys have any takes there. None of them are Kyle Pitts, but could these guys be viable fantasy options? Who's your tight end 2? Who's your tight end 3? Are they even sniffing, your top 15 picks of a rookie draft? What do you guys think?
Well, I think Fryermuth is going to be the second tight end coming out, just because of his blocking ability. And he's baby Gronk, it's going to be a tough label to live up to, but the guy's got phenomenal hands, and he's not going to blow anyone away with his 40 time, but just the fact that he's able to block, and he's going to be across from edge defenders, and able to separate there. It creates quite a bit of a, it opens up a lot of things for teams, and he'll fit better into the NFL, pro style offenses. But that's not to take anything away from Brevin Jordan. Now, I think Brevin Jordan would be up there with Pitts if he didn't have such an injury history. The guy just, he can't stay on the field, but when he is on the field, man, he looks just as good as Kyle Pitts, in my opinion.
Whoa.
And I'm not saying that he is. Hey, careful. I'm not saying that you should draft him around the same spot as Kyle Pitts, but athleticism wise, Brevin Jordan's got Kyle Pitts beat. It's just that he every little bump and bruise he takes just sidelines him for a game or two. So, but as far as he was the number one tight end. I mean, he had a just 5-star rankings. I mean, we're talking this guy was, and plus he played at a top 15 high school, Bishop Gorman, prep school. I
Hey,
mean,
screw Bishop Gorman. I'm from Las Vegas. That was my rival high school. Screw Bishop
I
Gorman.
love it.
Like, sorry, man. Fuck them. We beat them in the playoff game too. We beat that fucking monster of a team that had DeMarco Murray on that team.
Yeah, they just go out and recruit.
We put them away.
It's not like they're playing their Nevada guys. They're pulling guys from all over the country. So
I agree with Wes. Freiermuth he's good. And if you go back to the 2019 game versus Ohio State, they lined him up in line. He was in the slot. He played out wide. He's very versatile. He's huge. He's physical. He's got great hands. I think he's a baseball player too. There was some fear that he was going to leave and go play Major League Baseball, but came back to Penn State. He's phenomenal. Jordan's great. I think he's probably the most athletic tight end, but he's always hurt. He's always hurt.
Yep.
Always hurt. Hunter Long is apparently doing very well at the Senior Bowl. He's a solid tight end. And then I like Kenny Yeboah out of Ole Miss is my fifth ranked tight end. Kenny Yeboah, athletic guy from Ole Miss. I think he's kind of a sleeper prospect. I'm hearing he's showing well at the Senior Bowl as well. So I think the biggest takeaway, Scott, is the tight ends in 2020 were horrible. The tight ends in 2021 have a lot of talent, and we're going to actually want to draft them in leagues this year.
Yeah, and I like Yeboah too. He played at a top 100 high school, Parkland in Pennsylvania. And Hunter Long, I didn't know we were going that deep. Yeah, love Hunter Long. He's right behind Freiermuth as far as the overall tight ends, the guys that can block, the guys. Plus, his hands are just as good as Freiermuth's. He didn't get much of a run his 2 years ago prior to the regime change, but this year he looked great. Didn't get as much exposure at the end of the year, but yeah, and he came out. He didn't have a whole lot of support for his game, and yeah, he did really well. Really impressed me this year.
Freiermuth, what are we thinking? Like a Cole Kmet type of tight end, like mostly inline.
Yeah, you're not going to see him.
Not his. Yeah.
You're not going to see him out wide as much. He's definitely more like a Hawkinson type guy.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna throw this out here. Feel free to bat it down or whatever. But yeah, two guys who popped in my tight end model last year: Charlie Kolar, Brant Kayuth.
Brent Kuth, he's going back.
Yeah, and Kohler's going back. Both of those guys are 2022s now.
Yeah. The other guy that might impress, he showed up with some good athleticism at the Nike Invitational. Played at a decent high school. Wasn't a great high school, but has a skill set. Tommy Tremble, Notre Dame. Obviously he was put on the back burner by a true freshman this year, but that was a really good true freshman. So that's, nothing to be, feel bad about, but yeah, he might be somebody and then Noah Gray at Duke. He's a guy that he's got some talent. Kerry Angeline, NC State, 6'7", big dude, another good blocker, was a 4-star coming out. And Matt Bushman, would have liked to have seen more of him with Zach Wilson this year. And outside of those guys, I don't see anything. It's pretty much the top 5. I'd put Tremble up there with Long, Pitts, Jordan, and Freiermuth.
Yeah, and I mean, my selfish focus again is just best ball. Like, which rookie should I prioritize in the later rounds? And tight ends, rookie tight ends, almost always underperform. That's also another great reason why you should, it makes sense to fade rookie tight ends in your rookie draft and then draft them cheaper after a disappointing rookie season, which is what tends to happen. You'll get them at a cheaper value. I think Kyle Pitts just breaks the mold in every regard. And so I'm drafting him and just everywhere I can, but we'll see. Let's move on to the running back position. And
I think Brevin Jordan could also impress if he stays on the field.
90% of my leagues are tight end premium and just my favorite. So he is skyrocketing up my rankings and he's going to be for sure round 2 target for me. So moving on to the running back position, basically consensus is almost evenly split on who the RB1 is, whether you go by Jeremiah, Brugler, Kuiper, the PFF guys, Danny Kelly, whoever. And that's between Travis Etienne and Najee Harris. I have my headphone in. I'm going to run to the bathroom, so I'm going to hear everything you guys are saying. But who is the RB1? For me, I tend to just break the tie from a fantasy perspective on whoever is the better pass catcher. And from what I'm getting, the vibe I'm getting is Najee Harris earning Matt Forte comps. But you guys tell me. We'll start with Ray. Who is the RB1 in this class?
All right, Wes. I saw the reaction to the pass catching thing with Najee, but it's not close. It's Najee Harris. It's Najee Harris for me personally at 6'2", 230 pounds. The dude is an athlete, number one player in California in 2018, number 2 overall recruit in high school in the country. Comes in, he has to battle some NFL running backs, Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris. He has to deal with that for the first couple of years of his career. But you saw it towards the end of the 2018 season. You saw the talent. And then in 2019, he just took off with that Alabama Crimson Tide team. To be that big, to be that agile, his vision is outstanding. He's powerful. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's versatile. He's not just a dump off guy. Alabama, to watch them use Najee Harris in the slot, motion him in the backfield, have him run routes out of the backfield. He's just he's a man. He's a man playing against boys in college, and we saw that. And I get a lot of people talking about his age. I don't care about his age. I want one contract, and if he's a first-round pick, 4 years, fifth-year option. If he's a second-round pick, you got 4 years of Najee Harris. I really don't think it's close between he and Travis Etienne. I'd prefer my running backs not to run right into the back of offensive linemen. Travis Etienne, whatever way he's going, whatever direction he's going when he gets the ball, that's probably the direction he's going to end up going. I don't even have Travis Etienne as RB2. I understand back-to-back 1,600-yard seasons, but when I watch the game, outside of the speed, outside of the acceleration, and Travis Etienne has good contact balance and can catch the ball, I just prefer Najee Harris a lot more than I do Travis Etienne.
Well, I wasn't, when I made that face, it wasn't in saying that I think Etienne is the RB1. It was that I just don't think it's that clear cut as between who's the best pass catching back. I think it's pretty even. But you definitely are going to take Najee Harris as your RB1, and we're going to see it work out that way in the NFL. I mean, he's going to be the first running back off the board. I have Etienne as the RB2. If he had come out last year, he would have been the first running back off the board. I think it hurt his stock a little bit staying. He just didn't look like the same guy that we'd seen in previous seasons. I think both Harris and Etienne, I thought Harris was, he blew my mind with his yak ability, or yards after contact against Ohio State. It was just, he didn't have a great game. He only had like 70 some yards, but man, it took 3-4 guys to bring him down. He was spinning. He was phenomenal in that game, and he's the only 5-star guy in the class, in this 2021 class at running back. So he reminds me a lot of Derrick Henry. Actually more mobile, better maneuverability, but Etienne, I think we've yet to see the best from him. I don't know what was going on this year. He was not the same guy. He fumbled several times. I don't know what was going on. I just wasn't the guy that put up, video game numbers last year. So, but I'm interested to see who you have as your RB2. I'm going to take a stab. It's not Trey Sermon, is it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. No, sir.
Okay.
No, and you make a good point. He wasn't the same. And here's and I was talking to Matt Kelly about this. Coming into the season, I think he dropped weight and he was sub 200 pounds. I believe there is a report that he was like 199. I just I don't see him being the, and I know this term we use this far too much, and what does it even mean anymore? A bell cow, because you don't have to be a bell cow to be an RB1 in fantasy. I understand that. I just don't think ETN is going to bang like that. I think you're going to want to use him in space. If I were going to comp him, which I don't like doing that often, when I comp players, I feel really strongly about it. He reminds me of like an Austin Eckler type, and I don't know if he's as good as Austin Eckler. I just don't. His vision is horrible. He has no lateral quickness. He's got great acceleration and speed, and his receiving definitely ticked up. But if you watch how he got the ball, and I know in fantasy we don't care, I think it's a big gap between Najee Harris and Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue against that. But we're looking at a guy with 4.4 speed compared to a guy with 4.6 speed. I think they're completely different players. And but he's not a bell cow, that's for sure.
Who's not? Etienne?
ETN, yeah.
Yeah.
How are you defining bell cow though?
Just
But
somebody. He's not gonna. He's not gonna. You're gonna use him with somebody else. He's not a Derrick Henry. He's not somebody that you're just gonna give the backfield to.
All right, then from a fantasy perspective, this is easy. It's Najee Harris, clear RB1.
Absolutely, no question. There's no argument from any of us here.
Beautiful. What about the RB3, the consensus easy RB3?
Well, RB3 for Ray is ETN.
Yeah, that was. We already talked about him for me. We talked about
your
him for
RB2. You want to say it?
Is who? Who is it? Who is it, Scott?
Same team as RB5, Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams. I got him at RB2, man. I got him at RB2. At
You're
5'11", 220 pounds. I'm just watching it, and I like what he can do. He can catch the ball. He's demonstrated that. He's got 20 pounds. He is a belt. He's the type of guy that you can bang, that you can give him the ball 20, 25 times at 220 pounds. Now, he was never able to take the backfield away from Michael Carter, who's got some juice himself. But Michael Carter, when Javonte Williams came in, Carter was already there, the incumbent, and Carter's pretty damn good in his own sense. But both of those guys were fantastic running backs. But when I'm looking at what they do well and just what I think they project to do at the next level, I like Javonte Williams a little bit more. And that is not a big gap, right? To me, the gap between Najee and everyone else is pretty big. Williams, ETN, I wouldn't argue it if you said, Ray, you're dead ass wrong. It needs to be Travis Etienne. I wouldn't argue that, but I like Javonte Williams' profile just a little bit more when I'm watching the tape.
Yeah. I don't know about my model because, like, again, I'm in love with my model. It is a super model. It is beautiful. But most models would just completely whiff on Javonte Williams because, again, he barely out-touched Michael Carter, who, by the way, is the consensus RB5. But then again, you could say the same thing about Josh Jacobs when he was at Alabama. You could say the same thing about Alvin Kamara when he was at Tennessee. So a good model is going to look at the things like missed tackles forced, PFF grade. By the way, Javonte Williams coming off the best missed tackles forced per touch and PFF grade season in PFF history, PFF college history since 2014. And those are PFF grade, not as much, but missed tackles forced, one of the best, most predictive, stickiest stats out there. You're not alone, Ray. My dynasty partner, one of the best, dynasty player, probably the best dynasty player, in my opinion, is TJ Calkins. He is Javonte Williams. It looks like RB2. He even flirted with the idea of him as RB1.
Do you release your best dynasty player rankings anywhere?
I mean, he's just the guy I team up with for
I'm just kidding.
TJ's dope.
So
TJ's dope.
And he knows his stuff. All right, so Javonte Williams, is that your RB3, Wes? What are your thoughts?
No, he's my RB5. I've got Sermon as number 3.
All right. So I need you to dump on Javonte and then sell us on Sermon.
No, I love Javonte. I think the difference between RB3 and RB5 isn't that much. We're talking about bell cows, the guys that we know can handle, the load. I mean, Sermon single-handedly took Ohio State into the playoffs. Without him, they weren't going. The running game was, I hate to knock on Master Teague. I think he's a good running back, but he's not a game-changing running back. And as it blows my mind to think that he was sitting as the RB2 on Ohio State for that long. But man, when they started giving him the ball, he single-handedly knocked Northwestern down from a top 10 run defense into, I think in the 40s. It was in one game. And then what he did against Clemson was, another top 10 run defense. So he doesn't have the well, let's look at Javonte. What did he do? Notre Dame shut him down. I mean, to me, that's the type of defenses he's going to face every week. I think he's good. I think he's got the wiggle. I think he's got the speed. He's got the hands out of the backfield. An NFL team's going to love to have him. I just don't think he's game changing. I think he's somebody that is definitely going to be a great compliment for an NFL team, but not somebody you're going to hand your backfield to. My RB4 though, I can already tell you guys is not going to be the same as Ray's for sure, but as anybody else's either.
So Trey Sermon, explain to me why 2019 Kennedy Brooks saw 3 times as many carries. Ramondre Stevenson saw more carries, was far more efficient, more productive. Every guy has a type. Some guys like him thick. I like him thick, downhill, aggressive runners. Ramondre Stevenson is exactly my type. He is one of my biggest sleepers. Like, I just love watching this guy run and run over people. But you're all Trey Sermon. I don't get it. What?
Well, I mean, go watch when he had the ball at Ohio State. Look what he did against Michigan State. Look what he did against Northwestern. Look what he did.
Lincoln Riley's a smart guy. But Lincoln Riley wouldn't give, Trey Sermon the ball over Kennedy Brooks. Like, what's going on there?
That last year they had Jalen Hurts. It was hard for any of the running backs to really stand out. He ran the ball so much, and they split their backfield. If you played college fantasy and you had Kennedy Brooks on your team, you were very disappointed. It didn't matter what running back got the ball, you couldn't play him because they split the backfield carries. What was left over after Hurts got his 150 rushing yards, you couldn't do anything with what
he tore
was
his
left
ACL
over.
too. He tore his ACL too.
He was also hurt, and that's what I was going to say. He's a guy that struggled with injuries, and then he comes out against Alabama and breaks his collarbone on the very first play. So I mean, that's something that we'll need to look at. But if he tests well, then as far as a guy that can handle 25, 30 carries, I think is the closest guy to Najee Harris in this running back class as far as his ability to work after contact is Trey Sermon.
All right, so it seems like there's not a lot of consensus after RB1. The experts have it: Etienne, Harris, Javonte, Gainwell, Carter. Wes, you said you're not going to have the same RB4 as Ray. Who was your RB4? Just say the name.
Javian Hawkins, Louisville.
Oh, wow. I like Hawkins. I don't like him at 4, but I like Hawkins.
We're talking 4.3 speed at 200 pounds. I mean, this guy can burn.
No. Hawkins is 180. He's 180 something.
I have him listed as 196.
No, there's no way. No way, Javion.
That's
Hawkins
his official listing. That's
Louisville is.
He's 5'9".
Cooking the books. Louisville's cooking the books.
If that's the case, my opinion will change. If he's at
I mean,
200
that's an
pounds,
insane speed score. That's like Brandon Jacobs.
Louisville right now on Louisville's site, they have him 5'9", 182.
well, see, the information I got, he's 5'9", 196.
They got him at 182 on Louisville's site.
Okay.
And that's why I have him so low is because he's 182.
Are you allowed to say your source, Wes?
No, I'm not going to.
All right. Yeah. All right. Who is your RB4, Ray?
Jamar Jefferson.
I don't even know who that is.
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
Where do you have him, Wes?
5'9", 196. That's what I have. I can't give my source, but it's a trusted source. But you're right. If he's at 180, no way. I'm not looking at a little scat back as my RB4. Yeah. I'm talking a guy that can take 20 carries. You know what I mean?
Wes, let me tell you something, Wes. If he's checking in 190, 195, 200, I'm gonna move him way up. Yeah. And the only reason I have him so low is because I'm basing it off of this Louisville thing at 182. But if he's 195, 200, he's moving up for me like big
think
time,
about
man.
this. He's 5'9". He's got a 41-inch vertical.
Oh, he's a freak. He's a freak athlete.
We're talking. He's got a 395 shuttle.
He's a freak athlete. He's ridiculous.
He may be the freakiest athlete in this running back class, but that doesn't mean much if you're 180 pounds, you know?
Yeah.
You're only going to get 10, 15 carries at that size. So.
All right. So for the folks at home, when you're hearing all this stuff about athleticism, athletic measurables, like it matters. It's important. Spark score is like the worst stat ever invented. It's just like garbage. Season, ideally, but apparently he's taking the Senior Bowl by storm. And those, just like the wide receiver / tight end hybrids are so sexy for fantasy, so is the RB / wide receiver for fantasy. Ideally, he's a running back. So Demetric Felton or Ramondre Stevenson as late round best ball sleepers. Any thoughts, Ray?
The fact that Stevenson was listed at 6 foot 247 and he checked in at 5'11", 227, he skyrocketed on my board. I mean, in my personal at 5'11", 227, and I'm watching him. I don't know if Oklahoma listed him wrong or what, but to drop 20 pounds and to look the way he looks now, he's a hammer that can catch the ball. He's got speed to have that type of size. I think he's a 4-5 type runner. Big time fan of Stevenson. I'm from the West Coast, so I watch fucking Pac-12. So Demetric Felton is no surprise. Like, he was good as hell at UCLA last year, and in their abbreviated season, he was fantastic. 189 pounds. We're not going to get Antonio Gibson because he's 189. And in season, he's probably playing at about 185. So that's a little concerning. But if you like those type of running backs, Scott, then you got to love Kenneth Gainwell. And I'm going to leave it at that. You should love Kenneth Gainwell.
I need to watch some tape. Thank you. What about you, Wes? What do you think?
Yeah, I love Stevenson. I've got him as my RB7. One guy that I'm shocked that I'm not hearing anything about is Jarrett Patterson. And I think he's, small school. He's outside the Power 5, and something I usually avoid unless I've seen just outstanding abilities in Devy leagues. But that's exactly what I've seen. Patterson is a guy that is going to just change everyone's minds really quick when he gets the ball. This guy just could not be stopped. And that's exactly what we want to see, from a guy playing in these smaller conferences. And I love him. I'm, also like Carter and Gainwell. I would have liked him to stay another year. But he'll be young and there's nothing wrong with that. But he's definitely a multi-dimensional guy. And then I think Felton, he's got some, similar size to Hawkins, but the guy's got 4.6 speed. He's got better hands, that's for sure. But it'll be interesting to see how he's used. And then Jefferson, yeah, Jefferson's gonna.
Where are you getting the 4.6 speed from?
That's what he did at the Nike Invitational.
Yeah, when he was
4.62.
what, 18 years old, 17 years old?
Hey, where else are you getting your 40 times right now?
Yeah, I mean
From
that's the thing is like I
projections?
wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on that,
Am I
especially because
focusing
like the
too much on that? I'm saying
I
that
don't know.
he's not a guy that's a burner.
I
You
mean, he
know,
wasn't at 17.
I'm going off of official 40 times. We've got no other.
I know,
That's why.
but
That's why
I'm just
even
saying, like,
having this discussion prior to the combine really doesn't make a lot of sense.
I just mean I kind of want to just severely discount that or almost throw it out entirely just because, these guys are like barely through puberty. It's 4 years ago. I know there was like one guy who ran like a 4.31 at the Nike and then ran like a 4.68
Salvon
last
Ahmed,
year. Salvin
Ahmed,
Ahmed, yeah.
yeah.
But by the way, I mean, like he was actually pretty good. So, or productive at
Justin
least for fantasy.
Jefferson, Justin Jefferson had a verified 4.88 coming out of high school. Verified 4.88.
That's a great example.
Hey, I'm not saying that it's
No.
science
I don't.
and that we
Yeah.
need to,
Right.
look and draft these guys based off of that. I'm just saying it's the information. I'm using the information that I have available to me.
Right. All right. So we have limited access right now. And guess what? This year, we're going to have a lot of limited access when it comes to athletic measurables. Because guess what? There's no combine. And that sucks because this was our way to get uniform athletic measurables. I'd love if we could incorporate the squat into like the combine and some like other, better, metrics than what we have, but it is what it is. And
We'll still get pro days.
but we'll get pro days. But the problem with pro days is it's been proven that, your pro day time is significantly better than your combine time because again, it's not uniform and, you're not going to have the, are you going to get the 40-yard dash at, Eastern Kentucky, or are you going to get the 38-yard dash? Like you never really know.
There are some teams like I'm not going to throw out actual names, but some teams use what they run on is on a decline slightly, and some guys will
heavy wind.
Heavy wind.
Oh,
They'll try to
man.
time pro days to having the wind at their backs.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree. You need to do these things inside closed stadiums. Otherwise, yeah, the numbers just aren't going to be reliable on speed.
Yeah. So numbers this year are going to be way less valuable, way less useful than they've been in the past.
Man, how are you gonna factor that in, Scott? Because everything is gonna be pro day times, and I mean, one player's running indoors, one player's running out. How are you gonna factor that in?
I mean, teams will be using these Nike Invitational times because they've got nothing else other than these pro day times. Which do they really give them that much credence?
Well, one thing I'll say is so the 40-yard dash is like such a garbage stat overall. Like, how often are you running 40 yards in a straight line without pads, untouched, and it's rare as fuck. A great stat is just like using those GPS trackers and looking at, top time, maybe in and out of a route or, ideally untouched. But again, that's rare and it's not super useful. But like just having that game speed is way more valuable than 40-yard dash time at a combine. And I know a lot of NFL teams do try and leverage that, and they all have access to that now. And ideally we'll have access to it at some point. But I will just say, I think, the combine is massively overrated within the dynasty community, within the fantasy community, and within like the draft community. Like you just look at, I had a tweet last year where it's like, okay, CeeDee Lamb is elite, but Henry Ruggs is fast. And that's why he's going to be the first wide receiver drafted. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I think teams just like don't know which events are the most valuable. And then they just still massively overrate those events anyway, when it's like route nuance. Like, how are you running a route? Like, you're not running all out in a straight line. You're trying to juke a guy out of his shoes. You want precision, timing. So I do think the combine is overrated to a degree, but my model factors in, I think, how it should be appropriately rated. And then just this year, I'll rate it even less. You have any thoughts, Ray, on just the combine and measurables?
I think a lot of that shit is overrated. I mean, 40, you see a bunch of players that don't run. What's James Robinson's 40 time? I mean, I'm pretty sure for certain positions, you want to have some speed, right? You don't want a 4.7 corner out there, ideally. But overall, I think we just get excited to see stuff, but some of the events, like I did ask some data people to tell me, was there any correlation to fantasy success from a 10-yard split opposed to the 40-yard dash? And some of the guys that looked at it said not really. It wasn't much of a difference, but I'm more concerned with the burst, like, in and out of the three cone and just little stuff, man. I think 40 time, that just by itself, 40-yard dash time is overrated quite a bit, in my opinion. I think we just like the combine. It's football. Bench press, who gives a shit about how many times you get bent, how many times a wide receiver can bench press?
Exactly.
I just think that's kind of silly, man.
It just,
I love a squat
but
for
with
like offensive linemen. Yeah, Wes?
I was just going to say, if we don't use the information, then we have to use what we see, the numbers on the field, and it's tough. You could say, oh, I'm a purist. I just look at tape. I don't look at the analytics. Or you could say, I'm an analytical guy. I just look at the production on the field. Or you could say, I'm into the athleticism. But, at the end of the day, you still have guys that are doing well despite all those things.
Yep.
And it makes us all look stupid. It is what it is. And we have to, use the information we have available.
I just wish, because there are some services out there that do track in-game speed. They track how fast wide receivers come out of break. They track how fast, I just think there are some better ways to do things. And I wish the NFL would adopt them. And let's see when running backs, get the ball, how fast do they get from the handoff to the second level? I just think the in-game speed is far more important than 40 time. But you're right, man. That we got to use the information. I just think there are some better ways.
Well, they have that information. The Amazon whatever trackers that they wear, they have all that information. We just don't have access to it. The NFL teams do. I put together a process that did exactly that, using coaches' film and using yard markers to track speed for players for offense and defense. It was right before I left PFF. I don't know if they're gonna incorporate it, but they loved it.
Good.
But they have a contract with Amazon Web Services, and so that's where they pull a lot of their information.
All right, Wes, you blow my mind every single time. That's incredible. Ray, you said something about the 10-yard split.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is a good segue into wide receivers. Belichick has a quote where he said, "Speed only matters for wide receivers in relation to their ability to escape the line of scrimmage." With that in mind, here are the top 5 wide receivers by 10-yard split over the last 3 combines. Number 1, Henry Ruggs. Obviously, fastest 40-yard dash ever, whatever. 2, CeeDee Lamb. 3, KJ Osborne. Okay, it's not going to be perfect every time. 4, DK Metcalf. 5, Jerry Jeudy. I think that's pretty good. Last 3 combines.
I'll take it.
You sort by 40-yard dash, and it looks a lot worse.
In my novice analytical opinion, I'm more concerned with the first 10 yards than 40. There are more 10-yard plays than 40-yard plays. So, okay.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about some guys who can eat up a 10-yard cushion real quick. But I will just give to you the expert consensus top 5 wide receivers, and we'll take it from there. Number 1, Jamar Chase. Number 2, Devonta Smith. Both guys pretty much unanimous, like basically top 8 picks overall. Jalen Waddle, Kadarius Toney, number 5, Rashad Bateman, just for fun. 6, Terrace Marshall. 7, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, Tutu Atwell. And then that's all we'll go from there. But we'll just stick to maybe the top 3 or 5, depending on how much time we have. But so Jamar Chase put together one of the most ridiculous seasons ever by a 19-year-old. Granted, he had, according to Wes, maybe the best quarterback to come out in the past 4-7 years. But again, it was a 19-year-old season, and like any model for wide receivers worth its salt doesn't give a fuck about 40-yard dash time too much. But what it really cares about is age-adjusted production, age-adjusted numbers. We talked about Najee Harris. Doesn't matter for a running back. Matters greatly for a wide receiver. Why is that? It's like these guys are going up against grown men cornerbacks, and like they're not fully developed. They're not very experienced. So if they could do this as a freshman or a sophomore or as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, it's like playing with one arm tied behind their back. And guess what? If you're putting up 1,500 yards with one arm tied behind your back or at 18 years old, you're going to be freaking awesome at 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old. So that's the thinking there. And like, again, a historically great season. I talked to my tape guys already about this, about Jamar Chase, and we'll get to the knocks on Devonta Smith because there's quite a few. But Jamar Chase, my film guys, Wes, I'm talking about Brett here, I'm talking about a few others that you know, said they were not wowed. They expected to be wowed, and they were not wowed. He struggles to get off press. Daniel Jeremiah disagrees, but he says Jamar Chase struggled to get off press, struggled to separate. And if that's true, how do you put up the numbers that he put up? The archetype wide receiver that I hate is the wide receiver who just doesn't get massive separation because like, who is that? That's JJ Arcega-Whiteside. It's like every bust over the past 5 years. It's Treadwell. It's just like the jump ball receivers. How often does that translate? But I mean, again, numbers ridiculous. Also, I dug in way too deep. Like I'm lost. Like we were talking about like draft heads overanalyzing Justin Fields. I looked at his Instagram. His Instagram is all pictures of him in front of cars, not him, practicing running routes every day. So like I'm way too deep into this. Ray, talk some sense into me. Where are we at with Jamar Chase? Is he the wide receiver 1? How much of a lock is he?
So he's going to be the first wide receiver taken, probably. Like he's probably going to happen, right? And I'll start with the positives. I mean, you don't go for 1,700 yards in the SEC by accident, and then you don't do that. LSU's 2019 team was the greatest offensive team in college football history. I mean, Joe Burrow, 60 touchdown passes, 2 1,500-yard receivers. Their third receiver had 13 touchdowns, a 1,400-yard running back, 55 receptions for the running. I mean, it was insane what they were able to do, and Jamar Chase was fantastic in that season. I don't know your film guys, Scott, but the guys that I interact with on Twitter who are kind of film-based analysts, we all say the same thing. He's great, but I'm when you watch it, he's not a great separator. He's not. Justin Jefferson is the far superior separator. Jamar Chase is physical as shit. When he gets the ball, he's breaking tackles after he gets the ball. His ability to attack the ball when it's in the air is outstanding. And I know Wes probably has his 40 time, from high school. I don't think he's a burner. Just looking at him, he doesn't look like a burner. He's a physical player. He's good when the ball's downfield, but he likes to engage in contact. And that's one of the things I've never seen Devonta Smith get jammed up ever. Like you can't touch him off the line of scrimmage. Go watch the Alabama game versus Travion Diggs. And it was like there are times where he's literally inviting like physicality off the line, trying to run into I think he's a very, very good wide receiver. I think he's a very good wide receiver. All of this talk about the best wide receiver prospect since Julio Jones is asinine, in my opinion. He's not my wide receiver 1, but honestly, I can flip flop them, and you are 100% right. Age adjusted production does matter. Every analyst that I talk to that's worth a damn that I believe in, they tell me the same thing. Like, if you produce early, you're probably pretty damn good. If you can do that at an early age, um, I just prefer Devonta Smith over him, and that's where I'm at. I'm not going to change it, and I don't care about his weight. I understand he only had 600, almost 700 yards as a sophomore. I understand all of those things, and if I'm on an island that I'm betting on an outlier, then so be it. That's the outlier I want to bet on. He did everything Jamar Chase did in one fewer game as the guy when defensive teams could not. It was Najee Harris and it was Devonta Smith, and 117 receptions for 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns, playing an all SEC schedule in one fewer game. That is insane, period. So I don't know if I talked any sense into you. I agree with your film guys. I see some question marks when I watch the tape. And I think people are chasing Justin Jefferson and thinking that just because I understand this argument. If Justin Jefferson was this good, how good could Jamar Chase be? But that's kind of fucking lazy to me, in my opinion. Like it's more than just that. So that's where I am with the two. I got Chase 2 and Devonta Smith 1.
All right, Wes, Jamar Chase, let's go.
Well, yeah, I think yeah, it's very lazy. If you're thinking that Jamar Chase is going to give you, Justin Jefferson type production, it's just silly. I mean, if you ask me, Justin Jefferson is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. He's one of the best man coverage wide receivers I've ever seen. And it just blows my mind watching his rookie footage. And no way is Jamar Chase on that level. No way. But I think Jamar Chase is the wide receiver one. I love Devontae Smith. What he did to Ohio State is embarrassing to me, to the team. But he did the same thing to the entire SEC. You know, I wouldn't argue taking Devontae Smith number one. I just, I think that we just we want to find the flaws in everybody. And instead of, we should let the numbers tell us, and the film, tell us what is, what the reality is, rather than chasing an outcome. And these are the top two guys. That's all there is to it, and I'm not going to argue against either.
All right, well, I'll take that. I think the arguments against uh, Chase were outlined well by Ray. I like the conviction. Again, I really have no stance here, but the arguments against Devonta, well, the argument for Devonta is easy. I mean, he just won the Heisman as a wide receiver. I mean, when was the last time that happened? He, put up 350 yards and like 4 touchdowns in the first half of the championship game. Like, how often does that happen? No one was able to cover him at any single point this season. The arguments against him, I mean, Waddle outproduced him before his injury this season. Low BMI. You want to talk about sticky, important stats, like low BMI wide receivers suck. Like, every time anyone wants to hype up a low BMI wide receiver, they never pan out unless they run a 40-yard dash like a Deshaun Jackson, or they're literally Marvin Harrison. Otherwise, they all bust. It's just like the track record is insane. The sample size is huge. Bama wide receivers, he's old, late breakout age. But again, I mean, just look at the tape, look at the Heisman, look at the championship. So those are all that's basically the extent of the Devonta Smith debate. I didn't watch enough tape, but I'm sure Wes did. So Wes, is he a sure thing? Is he a top 10 pick?
Yeah, for sure. He's going in the top 10. His pre-snap movement, just the way he's able to manipulate the guys in coverage, and the thing. Okay, going back to Chase, what makes him so good isn't his separation off the line. I'm not really worried about that. What makes guys like um, uh, I'm sorry, at Green Bay, a wide receiver. What's his name?
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. Yeah. What makes him so good is how is his ability to manipulate the safety. Yeah, he doesn't have, and he doesn't have game breaking speed. He's got speed, but his ability to defeat, these cover one, cover threes is his ability to manipulate the safety who's obviously leaning towards him, and his pre-snap movement, that's a huge part of that. And that's same with Devontae Smith. I mean, he made Ohio State look ridiculous, like they weren't even covering him, but it was because he was manipulating his cornerback and the safety, and he was already open before they snapped the ball. And it's ridiculous what Smith is able to do. But playing in the SEC, both of these guys face the same type of coverages, the cover one and cover three heavy of these NFL style defenses. And you get outside of the Power Five, and you're seeing a lot of cover four, a lot of teams playing a lazy football. I hate to call it lazy, but it's just really soft coverage. But when you get into the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC, you see a lot of cover one, a lot of man coverage, a lot of cover three, and those are more difficult to rack up these video game numbers. But both of these guys did. I don't see a reason that we need to debate Smith or Chase. I think they're both top 10 guys, and
Agreed.
they're gonna put up 1,000-yard seasons. I'm not worried about either one of them at all.
Yeah. Pick your flavor. Who do you want? You like Chase or you like Smith? Draft them and move on with it.
Move on, just like Justin Jefferson. You put up those numbers in those conferences. It's gonna translate to the NFL. You're gonna see the same from like Chris Olave. You're gonna see the same from like a Rashad Bateman. These guys are that good.
Well, it didn't. All right, yeah, love that. But all we're gonna hear all season is just like one Jamar Chase versus Devonta Smith article after another.
You're splitting hairs,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Scott, I got a question. I got a question for you, real quick, about the BMI hit rate historically.
Yeah,
and I truly don't know, but how many of those busts, which there probably are a lot of them, right, were drafted inside the top 10? Like, how many of them had high draft capital, or are they guys that were drafted in like the second round, third round that were below that BMI threshold and then they didn't pan out? But how many of them actually, or does that even matter? I'm asking because I don't fucking know.
John Ross.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me 5 minutes. We'll talk about the consensus wide receiver 3 and whether or not he's your wide receiver 3. And I'll pull up those numbers for you. So consensus wide receiver 3 is Jalen Waddle. And it reminds me of my take on Henry Ruggs, which is just that it was, I thought, an egregious pick. I love CeeDee Lamb. I was, drooling over Jerry Jeudy. We both liked Jalen Reagor, but it was, why would you think Henry Ruggs is better than Jerry Jeudy when Tua Tagovailoa, when Nick Saban, more importantly, thought he wasn't even the second best receiver on the team? Because you look at the numbers, look at yard per route run, and Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle all blew him out of the water. Like, it wasn't even close. Jerry Jeudy, 3.31 yards per route run. Devonta Smith, 3.30. Jalen Waddle, 2.89. And apparently, like, Waddle is this, deep speed superstar, which, is Henry Ruggs' wheelhouse. But, Waddle was far more productive, far more efficient, the better deep threat. So are we admitting Henry Ruggs was a mistake? And is Jalen Waddle who we wanted Henry Ruggs to be? And how good is Henry Waddle? Ray, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue it. I got Waddle at 4. But that's probably because I'm a little biased because I just love Rondale Moore. But Jalen Waddle is exactly, the pick Henry Ruggs was egregious. There's nobody in their right fucking mind besides the Las Vegas Raiders thought. I don't even think the Raiders believe that Henry Ruggs was the better player. That was just a silly pick. You say the third at times, if you go watch Alabama in 2019, he wasn't the first, second, third, or even fourth option at times. I mean, it just all he did was run fast and jump high. That's it. But we knew that. We knew coming in that Henry Ruggs had elite speed. Like we knew that. We knew that. That's what he is, man. He's Jalen Waddle. Now back to Waddle. I think Waddle is fantastic, and he's more than just a deep threat guy. They get him involved in the bubble and smokescreen games, and you just see the 0 to 60 is. I think he's got the most juice from the time he gets the ball in his hands to hit top end speed, more so than anybody in this class. He's physical. The fact that he broke his damn ankle in October and was on the field in less than 3 months probably was not a wise decision. But even versus Ohio State, when he got the ball in those 3 receptions, he still had juice running around on one leg. He's ridiculous. He's got speed. From the time that he's drafted, I think he's probably the most dangerous punt returner in the NFL. So you've got the special teams ability. I know we've been chasing the unicorn for like 5 years, right? For at least 3 years. Who's the next Tyreek Hill? Who's the next Tyreek Hill? First of all, I think Tyreek Hill is one of one. So let me just get that clear. But if there were a player that we're going to be as close to him as we've seen, from making his hay on special teams to being an absolute weapon at wide receiver, I think Jalen Waddle is that player. He's the closest thing to him, Tyreek Hill is one of one, but I think Waddle is fantastic.
Wes?
Yeah, no, I didn't like the Ruggs pick either. I thought he was the number 4 wide receiver on the team. But I think Waddle is before this season, I had Waddle above Smith. Obviously not now. I would love to have seen how everyone would feel had Waddle not been injured, and would Smith have had the same type of season, which obviously we'd see little less production, but Waddle was that good, and he got hurt, so we don't have as much tape. And he wasn't the go-to last year. He wasn't even the wide receiver 2 on his team last year. So it's tough. The injury definitely dropped him out of the probably the top 10. He'll probably go top 20. Yeah, I was a little surprised to hear that you have Rondell as number 3. I love Rondell, and he's on the smaller side, and he's got that blazing speed. I mean, nobody's got the wiggle that Rondell has. And I love the guy, but he cannot stay on the field. I just can't imagine what NFL contact's going to do to him.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, his freshman season, Scott was talking about what Jamar did at 19, what Rondell did at 18 on a horrible Purdue team was just
an air raid offense, which does worry me a little bit.
It's historic for an 18-year-old to do what he did. And then to start the 2019 season, he was on a torrid pace to go ahead and do it again. And then if you watch the play versus Minnesota, it was a freak injury and every medical doctor, Edwin is my guy. I got other medical people. Yeah, Edwin. They say the only reason he didn't blow his knee up is because he's so damn strong, because 9 times out of 10, that should have been an ACL tear, but he didn't. It was a hamstring injury, and it was a freak hamstring injury. And apparently, according to all reports, when he opted back in, I don't even know if he re-aggravated the same hamstring or if it was a different injury, but it's 2 hamstring injuries. And that's the only thing that I've seen from everyone talks about this injury history. I've only seen the hamstring. And when he came back in that first game in 2020, I think he had 15 targets, 11 receptions, and a touchdown right off of not playing for a year, of football. I just think that, and he's the guy, he's the counter Jamar Chase. Every Instagram post you see of Rondell Moore, it's either him graduating or him working his ass off and working out and training, squatting 600 pounds. I just think he fits the new age NFL. He's not going to play outside. He's going to be a slot guy, but I mean, we've seen a ton of slot guys thrive in the NFL, and I think he's that new prototype slot weapon that I'd prefer him to Kadarius Toney. I'll tell you that for damn sure. There's no way I'd take Kadarius Toney over Rondale Moore.
Now that makes more sense. I mean, but moving him ahead of Waddle, that's the only reason I bring it up.
Yeah,
I love Rondale Moore. I do. He's just not the type. He's not the type of game breaker that I think Waddle could be.
that's fair.
So one thing I will say is the NFL does and should undervalue slot wide receiver relative to outside wide receiver. I've done big, expansive tweet threads on this. I've done podcasts on this, but just slot wide receiver production and separation is far less valuable than on the outside. But for fantasy, it's all the same. And Devonta Smith, I feel like his archetype is more of a possession receiver than a Jamar Chase. So more targets, more catches, maybe he'll be more consistent and more productive in PPR, something along those lines. But I do think that's important to ask, if Rondale Moore is, stuck as a slot wide receiver, that doesn't mean anything for fantasy, but it does mean something for the NFL. And that could explain why, according to consensus experts, he's wide receiver 7, but it seems like Wes and Ray have him wide receiver 4-ish.
No, I don't. I have him outside the top 7.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll just go out and throw out the
if he didn't get hurt, and his hamstring issue reminds me a lot of Will Fuller. Just his speed, it's like he almost outruns his legs sometimes. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, all right, let's talk about a guy who should be injured, whose ACLs should be dust, but they're not. And that's Kadarius Toney, who Danny Kelly had a great take, which was just like, there's no way this guy doesn't get drafted in the first round because the NFL can't let him get drafted by the Chiefs, just like another ridiculous playmaker who's impossible to tackle. And if you just watch his highlight reel, it is so absurd. I don't know how his ACLs don't explode, because the moves he makes are it really just, it's beautiful and it's mind blowing. But he is really fun, and he is easily the consensus wide receiver 4, now being mocked in the first round. Ray, you seemed a little low on him, but I'm going to start with Wes. What are your thoughts on Kadarius Toney?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Rondale Moore in that they'll probably be used out of the backfield quite a bit. Well, they're kind of on the borderline of being a little scat back, but Toney's a little bit bigger. And I think he can take the pounding. I agree with Danny that, I mean, he's definitely a top 40 pick, top 50 for sure. And I have him, let's see, I have him as my 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, my wide receiver 11. After Moore, I think Moore has got a higher ceiling, but yeah, I think Toney, I mean, playing on that offense, the way they played was they were, go for broke at all costs. And, it didn't work out so well in their bowl game, but they showed us some excitement and, a lot of fantasy fireworks, and Toney was a big part of that. So especially when Pitts went down, they didn't seem to slow down without him because of Toney, and they didn't have much of a running game to speak of. So yeah, I mean, I like him. I'm not moving him into my top 10 or anything.
I mean, consensus wide receiver 4, round 1, right? Wes is laughing.
This is. I'm sorry, man. I know people, dude. Some people. I just have. People need to be mindful of the content they consume, because there's no way. There's no fucking way Kadarius Toney should be.
Okay. Let me say one thing real quick.
I've got him at wide receiver 9. I like him. I think he's a talented player. but I'm not taking him over Rashad Bateman. I'm not taking him over Waddle. I'm not taking him over Marr. I'm not. No.
I will say this. This is a ridiculous wide receiver class. I mean, looking at the top 12 guys, which that's where I think the chalk are. I mean, it's to say that you're the wide receiver 11 is not a knock on a player. I
Yeah.
mean, there's talent everywhere. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I only really started talking to Ray maybe a few months ago. Wes, we've been in dynasty leagues before. We did a dynasty startup draft in January of last year, which was like perfectly suited to his strengths. He just like gobbled up like all of the top, like Quintez Cephas. I never heard of that name before. He gobbled him up, and like a bunch of other, superstars who, wildly exceeded the expectations, at least in January, February, because he was on them so early. I do find value in sort of scouring the, Lance Zierleins, Dane Bruglers, Daniel Jeremiahs of the world, just because like, even if they're not the best talent evaluators, like maybe, Wes and Ray are, a cut above them, they are sort of, at least allegedly, tuned into the NFL teams. They're talking to agents, they're talking to GMs. So many times it's not so much like where they're at on a guy, it's just what they're hearing on a guy. But this is, I think, an important and interesting disconnect is that, okay, Wes and Ray both have this guy outside of the top 8. I had him wide receiver 4 because everyone else had him wide receiver 4. I'm taking him, in round 15 of a best ball league, but maybe that's a mistake.
Well, I think that's one of the flaws in my analysis is that I don't read into what these guys are saying because I'm not tied into NFL teams. I'm just going off of what I see on film and what the numbers tell me, and I stick to that process. I mean, I never falter. I stick to it to a flaw, and I will say that it's probably a bit of a. I probably miss on a few guys that I could have went after that the big guys out there were telling me NFL teams were on, but it's the process that I use and I stick to it.
I think that's a good point though, Scott. I think that is the disconnect, right? Because we don't have access to that information. If somebody were to tell me right now definitively, Ray, Rondell Moore's going to be a 3rd round pick and Kadarius Toney is going to be a top 30 guy, that probably would influence how of course it would, but I don't know that, right? I'm just judging these guys based off of high school and college. Like that's all I have. High school, like what they did in high school, how that translated to college. I don't have insider scouts telling me that, scouts are scared off of Devonta Smith or whatever the case may be. So it's hard to do that. And if I start to just change shit up and do it exactly like that, well, there's no point to have me. Like,
there's nothing that separates
you don't need my rankings
from everyone else.
Yeah, there's no point. So I think this is this is a whole different topic, Scott. But I think it's interesting, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to clarify, that's exactly why I brought both of you guys on. Like, I did nothing. I just like looked at their stuff and ranked it by composite score, and I brought you guys on who are experts. Film experts, and like we want that. We don't want groupthink. Like McShay has some like all-time egregious, laughable takes, like Paxton Lynch is the next Peyton Manning and things like that. So that's exactly why we brought you guys on, to keep them honest, to get away from the groupthink, to point us in the right direction. Before we dig into the next wide receiver, you did ask me about BMI, and so here's what I did. I pulled up, since 2001, every wide receiver drafted in round 1, 2, and 3, and I sorted it by BMI. The lowest BMI guys: Snoop minus Paul Richardson, Justin Hunter, Chris Henry, Roscoe Parrish, Bernard Berrien, Deshaun Jackson, Titus Young, and just scroll down, and the only guys in the top 17 with 1,000-yard seasons are Deshaun Jackson, Will Fuller. So like basically you need to run a 4.3 40 or you're kind of screwed if you're one of these low BMI guys. Meanwhile, sort by high BMI, AJ Brown, Josh Reed, Ty Montgomery, Laviska Shenault, Debo Samuel, James Washington, Greg Little, Andre Johnson, N'Keal Harry, Earl Bennett, Chase Claypool, and then, you know, skipping some guys who suck: Des Bryant, Jalen Rieger, Jarvis Landry, Vincent Jackson, Golden Tate, DK Metcalf, Anquan Bolden, DJ Moore, and all those guys are in the top 26. So there's definitely some misses in there, but there's way more hits with the high BMI, and then the low BMI was literally either you run a 4.3 40 or you're nothing. You're the former defensive back. So Ray, I just like to hear your thoughts there. Do you think that's an inability to escape from press coverage, an inability to stay healthy and maintain? I mean, like Cole Beasley is a low BMI, but that's, you know, that's different. Your slot. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything that just comes to mind, or Wes, if you could jump in?
I don't know, man, because I'll tell you this, and I had this conversation with the guy that's down at the Senior Bowl now that played quarterback in college. I can tell you, I was more nervous about facing the guy that was shifty off the line of scrimmage, that wasn't necessarily a giant, but like that worried me more. The guy that I knew that was fast.
What was your archetype? Were you fast, or are you big and physical?
Laser time, and I played. Listen, I didn't play at fucking Oregon State or Ohio State. I was a Division II and then Division I AA cornerback. I did get to play with Danny Woodhead. We were in the same recruiting class, so I did get to at least play with an NFL player and see what real 4.3 speed looks like. Laser time, I was a 4.56. That's the fastest I ran on laser, but in Division II, that's moving. I was one of the faster guys out there. The receivers that we went against in practice, those dudes were running like 4.6, 4.7, but they were shifty as hell off the line of scrimmage. Like that was harder to defend than a guy that I knew was just going to try to run deep and was big. Like I'll use the sideline to my advantage. If you're playing outside and I know you're going to do one or two things, try to go up over me or go deep, I'm going to use the sideline to my advantage and try to press you to the sideline, get physical with you, try to get in that game. But the guy that you didn't know where he was going to go, that was going to stop, start, shift when they run in choice routes, you didn't know if they were going in or out. You were scared of the post corner. You were scared. Like that was scary. So those type of receivers, but again, that's one AA Division II football, you know? So I just see like right now I watch defensive backs get up in Mike Thomas's face and try to jam his ass. And then when Tyreek Hill is there, they're playing 8 yards off the ball because they're afraid to get beat deep. So I don't know, man. It's interesting, man.
So again, I think that speaks to why the 40-yard dash is like overrated. Again, it's like, what can you do off the line? How shifty are you? How smooth are you in and out of breaks? That's another thing about why I think it's easier to manufacture production in the slot, and why, you know, it's more valuable to get separation on the outside, because you have that boundary, like you just said. Before we go back to wide receivers, what about the NFL? Who do you think the most difficult wide receiver to game plan against, to cover? I think it's Tyreek Hill. Yes. And where would you put Tyreek?
I don't think he's the best receiver in the NFL. I think he's the most difficult to game plan for, right? Like, you know, the Rams thought they could just line up Jalen Ramsey one-on-one with Devontae Adams and shut him down. I mean, you can't game plan for Tyreek Hill. You can't. You see teams try. You can't game plan. You can't game plan for that. Even though DK Metcalf is a freak, you can game plan him. Like, I know what he's going to do. Now it doesn't always work, right? Sometimes you can't coach 4'3", 6'4", but you can't game plan for Tyreek Hill. I think he's the most dangerous. I think he keeps defensive coordinators up. But how much of that is the quarterback as well? It's Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. Would Tyreek Hill be Tyreek Hill on the Chargers, or not the Chargers, but the Rams or some other team? So I think I'm speaking in very generalistic terms right here. I'm not getting into the detail, but just based on your question, I think I would be more terrified of Tyreek Hill.
Xavier Howard shut him down if you watch the Miami game, but that was man coverage. You'll never see Ramsey in man.
Yeah, I mean, I think having I think having Patrick Mahomes is like with Travis Kelsey. I mean, with Tyreek Hill is like such an unfair advantage. It's like the guy who can get down the field faster than anyone, and the guy who can throw it down the field faster than everyone. But I mean, the guy in his sophomore season still, put together unreal numbers with Alex Smith, who, was formerly just a check down Charlie. So what did we have? We had Chase, Devonta, Waddle for Wes. We had
Devontae.
apologies. Chase, Devontae, Moore, Waddle for Ray.
Yeah.
Wes, who is your wide receiver for?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, USC.
Oh,
And actually,
boom,
I
boom,
was
boom, boom, boom.
I was going to ask you
Yes.
about him, Ray, because I know you're a West Coast. You know, I don't get to see USC as much over here. What are your thoughts on him? Because I love him. I absolutely love
Dude,
him.
I thought y'all were gonna say I was batshit crazy because I got him at wide receiver 5, and I'm not moving him. I love St. Brown. I know
Okay.
we've been hanging on a St. Brown in the NFL for like 10 years now, hoping Equinemius would become something. This is the dude.
Yep.
This is the guy. And the production early as a freshman, production as a sophomore, so age adjusted should be there. The film, I think he's the most technical wide receiver in this class. He's physical, and then the behind the scenes shit, right? He's got two brothers, one that's in the NFL and one that played at Stanford or plays at Stanford. And their dad is like an Olympic, like power, like he's just crazy machine, right? There's a special that came out on Showtime, and all three of the football players are sitting down. And the interview asks, who's the better football player, right? And Equinemius St. Brown is kind of like, oh, it's me. And the other one, Osiris, was like, yeah, it's me. And then Amon Ra's like, y'all, dude, I'm the best of these three. And they're all kind of like looking at him. And he's like, and he wasn't laughing. He's like, I'm better than all of these dudes. And his brother is in the NFL. And he's just kind of sitting there like, yeah, he's pretty fucking good. Amon Ross St. Brown is a beast. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him. I think he's going to be an outstanding pro wide receiver. Like he reminds me of the same type of ascension that Terry McLaurin had, where people were kind of knew about him but weren't talking about him. Now, I'm not saying he's got that speed. Terry McLaurin dropped a 4.3, which is insane. But I'm just talking about he reminds me when I see Terry McLaurin play. I can't get Amon-Ra St. Brown out of my head. I love him. Love the call, Wes.
Hey, do yourself a favor. Go look up Amon-Ra St. Brown on Max Preps. Look what he did in high school, playing for the top ranked high school team in the nation up against other defensive backs running 4.4s. I mean, we're talking the best players. Look at the numbers he put up. Something like 22 touchdowns his senior year. This guy is unbelievable. Even playing with guys, I mean, who I love, like shoot, what's his name?
Michael Pittman.
Tyler Vaughn's really
Vaughns,
good.
Pittman.
Pittman, yeah, he was obviously a really good player coming up. And Drake London, that's the other guy. Love Drake London.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's
Same
the top.
here.
He was the top. He's top wide receiver this year, even with London and Vaughns on that team. It's another air raid, and I worry about that. But I love his electricity. He's not a blazing burner, like Waddle or Devontae, but yeah, I mean, I have Devontae stock in every Devy league that I'm in.
All right. So this is, by the way,
I'm
this is
sorry, Amon-Ra
maybe
St. Brown, not Devontae. Go ahead.
this
I'm
is
sorry.
maybe my favorite live stream we've ever done. This is like so much fun, and it's so useful for me, like especially for best ball. Like, okay, great to know. I can skip over a Kadarius Tony, and I can
Yes.
grab Amon-Ra St. Brown in the last round every single time and profit. So if you're listening to this, like super valuable. You want to just like dominate a dynasty league for forever, do a startup tomorrow and just like have all the rookies in it and load up on these guys, take advantage of their genius. All right, Wes, who is your wide receiver 5 then if Amon-Ra St. Brown is your wide receiver 4?
Yeah, I got 4 guys coming out of the SEC, and it's Terrace Marshall Jr.
Mm.
Yeah, 5-star coming out of high school, number 2 wide receiver in their ranks. You know, he's got speed, he's got size. I mean, he's the full package. He doesn't have that that game breaking uh ability that Chase brings, but that doesn't mean he's not a future NFL player. Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think he played a little more out of the slot than Chase did, but I know he plays on the outside as well, so he's not going to be limited there. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see what he's going to do at the next level.
Love
You have
it,
any thoughts
man.
there, Ray?
I love it. I got Terrace Marshall at 7, man. I love his game. I love that call at 5. I can definitely see him moving up. I think, and I believe he was the number 1 wide receiver coming out of going into his senior year, and then broke his leg and then dropped the spot. So the only thing I know, he's had a couple of little injuries here and there, but for him to do what he did on that LSU team last year with all of that talent around him, I mean, he smashed the season and then just said, "I'm done." Like, LSU was horrible, and he was like, "I'm done." But my 5 guy is was Amon-Ra, and we already talked about him. So I'll just 6, I had Rashad Bateman. So right after Amon-Ra St. Brown, I have Rashad Bateman. So fantastic wide receiver in Minnesota, playing with Tyler Johnson. Age adjusted production is there. I think he's a very savvy player. He's definitely not a blazer, not a quick twitch guy, but at 6'2", 215, he's like a big bodied, like, he creates separation with his size, and he's a good route runner. I really like Rashad Bateman quite a bit. So I got him at 6, but Amon-Ra was my 5th ranked player at the position.
All
Yeah,
right.
the
So
only Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Wes.
Oh, I was just gonna throw out the rest of my top 12, and another guy I like a lot is Sage Surratt, coming out of Wake Forest. We'll see his brother drafted in the first round as well, linebacker out of North Carolina. But I also like Marlon Williams out of UCF. Dude can ball, and I'm telling you, he's going to be an NFL player for a long time. He's going to put up some sexy numbers if he gets into the right situation. And then another guy I like that, maybe everyone else doesn't, Tamori Terry, Florida State. And then, have we mentioned Tylan Wallace yet?
No.
Yeah. I mean, this guy put up close to 4 yards per route run at Oklahoma State. Came out as a top 15 wide receiver, 4-star. Guy that can do some work, man. Love him.
Speaking of yards per route run, it was crazy. I think I filtered it with I think it's like 50 targets, but only 2 players in college football had more than 4 uh, 2 players in college football more than 4 yards per route run, and I believe it was Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle. And not only did they hit 4 yards per route run, it was 5. Like, Smith was like 5.3, and Jalen Waddle was right behind him. It was insane. Well, there was one other guy,
Ridiculous.
but it's like 3 guys in the top of the country, and they were both at like 5 yards per route run, which is insane. Which is why I like Mac Jones so much, because he pushes the damn ball downfield and he's not check down Charlie. He's pushing the ball downfield. But my big thing, Scott, Wes, this wide receiver class, we talked about 2020. 2021 is loaded. I mean, there are so many wide receivers. Like, I'm just looking. I don't have Sage in my top 12, but I'm looking at him right there outside the top 12, and he's a beast. Seth
Yeah.
Williams, Tutu Atwell, Amari Rogers,
Brennan
this
Eagles, Shee Smith, Anthony Schwartz.
Elijah Moore. What Elijah Moore did at Ole Miss this season was, if he played on any other team, we'd be talking about him as a first team All-American. And he did this. And then he also had freshman production on a team with DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown. I mean, Elijah Moore's a stud. This class is just loaded, man, at wide receiver and tight end.
I mean, that's great to hear from someone who has a lot of rookie draft picks this year.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, Scott. You cleaned up.
Yeah. So great year, apparently, to have a lot of picks, and which I do. Tylan Wallace was another guy my model loved. This is going to be a stupid question. What's the status on Justin Ross? Because like my model was all about him. He had like a really serious injury, right?
Yeah, he's fine. He's going to play, but he's going back to school.
What happened to him this year? He just sat out all year.
He sat out. He was out medical.
Spinal. It was
yeah.
I'm concerned about it. I mean, the doctors cleared him, so clearly he's okay, but it's just scary when you hear spinal stuff, and it forced him to not play this year. Like, I'm just happy that the kid is okay, right? I don't even know about football, but that's just scary to hear spinal stuff with the football player. It's just scary.
Well, those doctors, I mean, they're risking a lot to clear him if there's any chance of re-injury, and in the central nervous system is obviously not somewhere you want to re-injure. So I guess the fact that he's been cleared is okay with me. I have some stock in Ross and Devy's, so my opinion's a little biased, I guess, hoping that he's okay, but yeah, it's scary. But he won't be in this draft. So
all right, well, I think we crushed it. I think this is I don't think you can ask for anything more. I think if you're going to do a best ball draft, I think you got the goods from our two guests who absolutely crushed it. Same for to get you started for rookie draft prep, or if you're going to do a startup anytime soon. I'll end on this. I don't know if you guys have any takes, but while we were live streaming, it's been announced that the Ravens hired their new head coach. You each get one guess, unless you already saw it.
Who hired a new head coach?
The Houston Texans.
Oh, you said the Ravens. I was about to say, what happened?
Sorry.
Yeah, what was Harbaugh?
That would have been crazy.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. He's a coach on the Ravens.
Greg Roman?
Nope. Wes.
You got me. I'm just pulling up blanks here. No.
All right. So if it's not Greg Roman, it has to be Wink Martindale, right? Nope. It's the assistant wide receiver coach / pass game coordinator, David Culley. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a Giants fan, but I live in Houston, and they are just incompetent. And Deshaun Watson is out the door.
What is going on?
Wait. You're kidding.
David Culley, who I've never heard of.
You say Deshaun Watson. That's not where the list is going to stop.
Oh, absolutely. JJ Watt out the door.
Wow.
I mean, the chances of re-signing Will Fuller completely gone.
Oh, I mean, they couldn't do it anyway because of the cap. But
I'm just saying that they're going to lose everybody that is a.
Wow.
I will say, I think this was what the Dan Campbell hire was, which is just like the scapegoat / fall guy hire, where it's like, okay, we lose Matt Stafford. We're going to suck for a while. We're going to tank for 3 years, then get the 101, the 102, 103.
But Deshaun Watson's in his prime. I mean, you could make the argument Stafford is kind of as well, but he's a bit older, Watson he's a cornerstone.
Right. He's a top 5 quarterback, but they have a bottom 2 roster.
But where do you want to start a rebuilding process?
No draft picks.
No draft picks.
That's because you traded them all for Laramie Tunsil.
That was a whole wow.
And the funniest thing is he's the wide receiver coach. Like, I mean, Marquise Brown disappointed the hell out of me.
Yeah, what is he? Wow.
A wide receiver coach on a run first offense that leans on its defense.
But how much leverage does Watson have to get out this upcoming season? Does he even have any leverage to force their hand to move him?
I think he does in the sense that if he creates enough, negative press for the team, then I think they'll just want to be done with him.
Wow.
I will say this. I go out of my way to read coaching interviews, like all the way down to the RB coach, the wide receiver coach, things like that. But I will say every time I read one from someone on the Ravens, I always come away like, oh my God, they really have the best coaching staff, because like this second year running back coach I've never heard of just like blows my mind with how intelligent he is, saying like smart things, the right things. But yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson doesn't have any leverage. If it was possible for them to make the playoffs, he would have leverage because he's the only reason they're good. But they're so far behind being competitive that what he hates the most is what gives him zero leverage. Is like they know it's a multi-year tank. They know it's a multi-year rebuild. So like having him on the team is just them finishing 8-8. Having him off the team means they're getting the first overall pick. They're getting, I don't know, Wes, tell me who's going to be the best quarterback next year.
What, in the NFL?
Yeah, for the NFL draft, who's going to be the first overall pick next year?
Oh, it's Trevor Lawrence. It's not even close.
No,
oh, you mean
year.
the following year?
Yeah.
Oh, now we're getting into Devy stuff. Yeah, it's a number of guys. I like Caden Slovis. I don't see him as the QB1, I guess. I just closed.
Probably
you told me
you
coming
got
in.
Sam Howell. You got Sam
Yeah.
Howell, Slovis.
Then
Rattler.
there's Rattler, Spencer Rattler, QB1.
Oh, I like Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. Yep.
Tyler Shaw.
I was just gonna say, we sent out the message that this was going to be a Devy live stream, and we've completely gone off the rails. No Devy information, so we'll have to do that again sometime.
We'll just have to run it back, man.
Yeah. Definitely. Because I did a ton of Devy preparation for this on my vacation here.
Okay,
so.
can we leave with the Devy hot take? Like, who's your number one guy? Can we do that? Like, and it's got to be hot. It can't be Rattler or some shit like that. You got to give us something spicy.
Oh man, well, I just closed down my windows.
Well, okay, I'll start and give you some time to prep.
Yeah,
okay?
let me pull up my window again. Yep.
So my number one, I'm just gonna go wide receiver for 2022. Devy, the guy that I want to get across every Devy league. I know you all have heard about George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver from Ohio State, David Bell from Purdue, but the guy that I'm planting my flag on early, who I think is like Josh Gordon level of talent, is Treylon Burks out of Arkansas at 6'3", 230 pounds. He's projected to run 4.4 40-yard dash. His production on a horrible Arkansas team, I believe he had 20% market share as a freshman, over 30% market share this season. Treylon Burks is a guy that we are going to be salivating over come next season. He's an alpha, plays outside, blazing speed, and he's a fucking monster. Treylon Burks is my guy for 2022.
All right. So for 2022, yeah, obviously Rattler's my QB. Running back, it's Breece Hall. I mean, is there any argument there? And I also like Kyron Williams at Notre Dame. Let's see. Wide receiver, Drake London. I also like George Pickens. Let's see. Tight end, man. After like this year is going to milk the tight end position in college football. Probably the best guy remaining is Eric Gilbert. He's at LSU, but I think he put his name in the transfer portal.
What about that gigantic, what is he, LSU tight end?
Yeah. Just, ridiculous athleticism.
What's his name?
Eric Gilbert.
The number one tight end prospect of all time, according to 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player. I also like Keyshawn Boot. I'm probably gonna say this wrong. Booty. Oh man, dude.
He's my number one wide receiver in 2023. Number one wide receiver in 2023. Keyshawn Boutte.
I also like Marvin Mims, Oklahoma. What he's able to do against coverages with multiple safeties is
any
unheralded.
relation to Denzel Mims?
No, he's not. Oh. Marvin Mims. I also like Gary Bryant at USC coming in with Tyler Vaughn's leaving, and of course our boy Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lots of targets available. It's gonna be Bryant. Well, they've also got Brew McCoy, but still. And then I also love me some Raheem Jarrett out of Maryland. I don't know if any of those were.
Treylon Burks. He is that dude.
He's in my top 10 for sure.
Well, shout out to all the Devy guys who listen to 2.5 hours of Dynasty content, and then just got a final 5 minutes of Devy. One last thing: are you guys hip to Quinn Ewers at all? Committed to Ohio State?
Scott, I live in Texas, bro. I used to
Me
live in
too.
Houston.
We gotta hang out.
Scott, I lived in Houston for 15 years. My wife's mom lives in Houston. I'm in Houston all the time. I'm in Dallas, bro.
What's better, Dallas or Houston? I've never been to Dallas.
Houston in undergrad when I was single, but Dallas now that I'm married with kids.
Damn. Well, Quinn Ewers, I have two buddies who work in the industry, like covering high school football. Just like, yo, this guy is the shit. He has a mullet, but he is the perfect prospect. I watched like 2 seconds of his highlight reel, and I'm just like, oh my God, he's going to be a stud in the NFL. There's no other way. But he's fun. Wes, you're an Ohio State fan. You know about your commit, Quinn Ewers, close to Dallas.
I've not, you're catching, like I said, you're catching me during my vacation here. I'm not even on the clock.
That's true. I begged you to come on.
He's good. He's very good. He's got a mullet and he's good.
I hate to say I'm unprepared, but I am, because
I'll say this, Wes. I'll say this because I know you know who CJ Stroud is. I know that for a fact. He's going to push CJ Stroud. I'm just going to say that right now. He's going to push that kid.
Well, I don't think they brought on Stroud as if he were the quarterback of the future. Ewers has been the guy. I haven't watched any footage. All I have are, he's the number one quarterback and blah, 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 likely to be the future at the position for him. But, it's not, I'm not going to pass along opinions because I haven't seen any of his footage.
Yeah. You know who recruited him? Not Ewers, the other quarterback, Brian Hartline, who was one of my favorite players of all time, just because I made so much money in DFS off of him for like one random 6-week stretch. But apparently he's the greatest recruiter in college football for your Ohio State Buckeyes. And I'm surprised he didn't wind up with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they were able to keep their coaching staff. Honestly, and the guy I'm excited about this year though is Travion Henderson. I'm super excited. With Sermon going out, I mean, there's no chance. Master Teague, I'm sorry, bro, but you're RB2. Travion Henderson is the guy in Ohio State next year.
Hey Scott, on that hiring of the Texans, did you see the Ravens also get 2 third-round picks in the next 2 drafts for the Texans hiring this guy? So they just lost 2 draft picks as well. That's just a
wait. Houston loses draft picks?
The NFL passed a new rule that compensates teams with draft picks for losing minority staff members to head coach and other premium jobs. A team that loses they lose. They get
they get. Baltimore only gets rewarded picks. Houston doesn't get penalized picks.
Okay. Got you. So Baltimore. Okay, I was about to say
he's a minority coach. I didn't even know that.
I guess so. They hired a black guy. They hired a black guy. Let me see.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's going to be their scapegoat.
Wait a minute. He's not even. Dude, I don't think.
What is he, Hispanic or something? Why are they getting the picks?
Yeah, he's Hispanic. He's not black.
Yeah.
Or he looks.
Well, is Watson staying or not? Do you stay for a Hispanic guy or?
I don't think that even matters. It's not. It's not a decision that he was a part of, and that's.
Right. All right. So last take, and then we're all out. Where'd you go to school, Ray?
Shit. How many schools do you want?
What was
Texas Southern.
Texas Southern. For?
Texas Southern. That reminds me, Donnie Corley. He's the guy that got in trouble at Michigan State, transferred over Texas Southern. Guy that could make some noise, man.
Yeah, Texas Southern.
Okay. I went to Rutgers. Is there any Devy viable player on Rutgers? Bo Melton?
He's a slot. We'll see.
They do have a guy. Isaiah Pacheco, the running back. He's okay. He's not bad.
Okay. They're best players on the defensive side.
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco's not bad offensively. You get him off waivers when he goes undrafted.
All right. Well, this was fun. This was way longer than we expected, but this was, I think, one of the best live streams we've ever had. I think it was super informative, super valuable for me specifically. Like I said, I just wanted to cheat off of you guys, your big brains, and all the work you've done so far. So
We
if you're
definitely
into
need to run
Devy,
it back on Devy, though.
we
All
do
three
need
of us.
to run it back on Devy.
Yeah.
I'm useless for Devy, so maybe you'll just be on your own, Wes. But if you want to brush up on Devy, we have Wes contributing to that. Ray, you want to plug Destination Devy for us and for everyone at home listening?
Dude, my throat is so fucking dry at this point. I mean, just go follow me on Twitter at RayGQue, podcast Destination Devy, doing work with Fantasy Pros, Roto Underworld, FTN, and then all of my content. I don't have a site or anything like that, but patreon.com/all gas. You can get access to all of my rankings and cool Discord and other good shit that we do over there. So I just, Scott, it's been an honor. Wes, dude, you like, I love you, man. Like, I want to get in some Devy leagues with you. I'm so glad that we met and connected through here. Your brain, dude. I just want to, like, I was thinking about it an hour ago. I was like, dude, I need to hit this guy up offline. Like, I appreciate the invitation to come on, you guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm
I
always
mean, you
looking
crushed
for
it
more Devy
anytime.
leagues. So you name the location and I'm in.
All right. Well, that's it.